All right, Kingkillers, we cover chapters 45 through 51 in this episode. This is a good theory-heavy episode. I lay out my case, or at least one of my cases, for what might have driven Kvothe to become Kote and what's up with the thrice locked box. We also push through to the end of Kvothe's time at the university before he heads off to Severen. He gets arrested, annoys Chronicler by giving the story short shrift, tells Old Cob about a new hero, and gets his offer to see the Maer. And we talk about what the serving girl must have done to get Kvothe's attention, to get even him to notice her. And we discuss our love of Henry Winkler and come up with a surprising connection between He-Man, Auri, and Jack in the Box. So sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to the Kingkiller podcast. Got with me 5'1". He's grown a little bit. Tiny Tim. He's shot up like 4 inches. He's getting taller. So now he weighs, he's a $105 now. He's put on 10 pounds. So he's starting to look good, man.
Yeah, thank you. I still have growth spurts going on now. So who would have thought?
Yeah, fucking getting,
but it's
getting big, man. You're starting to look big.
As long as you eat and drink the right things, and
McDonald's,
and in celebration, a lot of Taco Bell and McDonald's. The food groups: Taco Bell, McDonald's, Wendy's,
Jack in the Box.
Well, of course. And in honor of episode 35, I'm having a celebratory beverage of Malibu rum, strawberry milk, cinnamon, and Pepto-Bismol. So
nice.
A little concoction. Yeah. It's pretty tasty.
Yeah,
you need real smooth.
Need some Pepto. Fucking get that tummy ready. Throw some grenadine in that, and you got everything covered.
It's a lot of red, a lot of pink. I feel like I might get some bubble guts, but that'll help. Spice up the episode.
Yeah. Bubble guts, always fun. But we got some good chapters here. Starting off with chapter 45, Consortation. In this chapter, Kvothe's playing at anchors when he is arrested and brought up on the Iron Law for calling the name of the wind against Ambrose. He gives a very brief description of the event on how he beat the charges. That's how the chapter ends.
Yeah, if you think back, we probably should have expected this, given the way the previous chapter ends. I went through the remainder of the day grinning and whistling like an idiot. It is as they say, a heavy purse makes for a light heart. Like he's winning, right? And he's at anchors. It's warm and quiet. People are basically packing the place on his regular days at this point, so he's getting some notoriety. So it makes sense. Knock him down a few notches.
Yeah, had enough money to pay his debt and have enough for tuition, and so he's like on one of those upswings. So Rothfuss like, nope, now you're getting kicked out of the university for a while. Go fucking travel to the Maer. Start over.
He even builds it up pretty well, where it's like Anchor's got this new serving girl who's smiling and blushing at him. Kilvin's terribly pleased with him, and everyone knows it. Like you said, he's got money. He's killing it on felling nights, with place getting packed for him. And then, they show up like some real fucking Buzz Killingtons.
Yeah, I'm wondering what this girl was doing, like, because he says, that even he couldn't miss the signals.
Yeah.
And we've seen some major signals thrown his way, and he's missed them badly. Badly missed them.
I'm picturing the cartoon-ish signal, like with the guys, it's they turn into a wolf and his mouth drops to the floor. I'm thinking with her, the eyelashes become so long that they like spread across the room, and then when she flicks her eyes up and down, like he sees it because they're massive. Like
I was picturing
animation.
I was picturing those leggings, workout pants girls wear with
Okay.
Kvothe on her ass.
Her first night?
Yeah.
She went out and got some juicy pants with Kvothe on the back. I like that. That's a pretty big signal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like if you see a girl, you just met and she's got her name on her ass.
She's got your name.
Your name on her. Yeah, your name on her ass. You're in a good position with her.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. That makes me kind of think how weird it would be to like be a particular type of celebrity. There's got to be circumstances where women come up and like, I love you so much, and shows them the tattoo she has of that dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's girls that will throw their panties, will pull off their panties and throw them at the guys. So,
jeez.
Yeah. There's, some girls will, maybe that's what she did. He's like, well, even I couldn't miss that signal. Yeah, her panties hit you straight in the face, man.
So, this is a good precursor to the boy band Ambrose Kvothe duo.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to happen.
Oh, for sure.
They're going to have, it's going to be like the Beatles. It's going to be every time they come to the show, a bunch of girls screaming, Yeah,
that's what's going to split them back apart is they're going to be going after the same girl and, the same super fan.
That sounds about right. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to go for Kvothe, and Ambrose is going to get all butthurt over it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like his style, for sure.
But yeah, so he hits the final chord, and instead of a thunderous applause that he expected, there was only an echoing quiet. I looked up and saw 4 tall men standing in front of the hearth. The shoulders of their heavy cloaks were wet with melted snow. Their faces were grim. 3 of them wore the dark round caps that marked them as constables. And if that weren't clue enough as to their business, each of them carried a long oak cudgel bound in iron. They watched me like hard-eyed hawks. So they came in and really changed the mood.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then it gets ratcheted up a notch when they say the 4th man stood aside from the others. He didn't wear the constable's cap and wasn't nearly so tall. That doesn't matter. But despite that, he carried himself with undeniable authority. And I thought there was something about a cudgel with there's some sort of
they bring
distinguishing characteristic that shows like their unquestioned authority, basically. Like they're the highest authorities. The highest authorities are involved. This isn't just local bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so they come at him, and they're like, Kvothe, Arlodin's son, he read aloud to the room. In the sight of these witnesses, I bind you to stand to your own account before the iron law. You are charged with consortation with demonic powers, malicious use of unnatural arts, unprovoked assault, and malfeasance. And then but the sight of the grim-faced man pulling a pair of dark iron manacles out of a sack filled me with a fear that turned my bones to water. So he pulls out the manacles, then Sim steps up and, for the first time seems like a noble, where he's like, what is going on here? Sim demanded, his voice hard and angry. It was the only time I'd ever heard him sound like the son of a duke. Explain yourself. And then the man gave him a parchment and brought out a stout iron rod with a band of gold around each end. Sim paled a bit as the grim man held it up for everyone in the room to see. Not only was it every bit as threatening as the constable's cudgels, the rod was an unmistakable symbol of their authority. The man was the summoner for the Commonwealth courts, not just a regular summoner either. The gold bands meant he could order anyone to stand before the iron law. Priests, government officials, even members of the nobility up to the rank of baron.
Some serious shit.
Yeah.
It got super real fast.
Yeah, it went from fucking girls wearing juicy pants and then bat their eyes and throwing panties to got grim-faced men throwing around their cudgels and throwing them in iron chains.
Fucking chains, man.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting too as they walk him out. Like nobody will meet his eye. Like it's what you would expect it to be. It's like nobody wants to be involved with someone who's up on this type of thing. So
I was actually I was
he's looking a little
surprised that
fucked.
Kvothe didn't resist at all. Like, I mean, he's kind of caught off guard. He's in shock, but still surprised, like, that he would allow himself to be taken away. Seems like something, that he's got that temperament where he'd be like, nah, fuck this.
Yeah, yeah, you would think so. I guess. I mean, I guess in a way, it's one of those situations where it's like, well, there's not much I can do because clearly it's the highest authority. I know if it were me, I'm not just going. Like I need to hear actual evidence now before I let anybody put me into fucking chains. What are you
Yeah,
kidding
you
me?
would at least thought, like, the thought would have crossed his mind, like, to fight back. Like, his first instinct, you would have thought, would have been, like, how could I set these guys on fire? Torch their clothes or something. And then, like, rationalize that away. Like, no, I can't do that. It'd be stupid. So, if I kill these guys, then I'm dead. And so you would have thought like that, the thought process would have ran through his mind because he's such a hothead that you would just
Yeah,
expect him to, like, his first reaction would have been to flip out and then have to walk it back.
yeah. That's an interesting way to put it because we have access to his mind. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's interesting that Rothfuss chose to not have him have those thoughts. I mean, my instinct is you immediately expect Ambrose, right? But even if that's the case, you would expect he'd have some, like you said, hot-headed reaction in some way, which he kind of really doesn't. He's just observing what's going on, and then he just basically allows them to do what they're going to do.
Yeah. And so they bring him away. And then the next morning, Sim and Elxadal come and tell him, what's going on. He finds out that he's being brought up on charges from calling the name of the wind against Ambrose and Emery. And because it was in Emery, it's not in the purview of the university to handle. So Ambrose has obviously gotten, other people in the nobility to push for these charges and to get this brought against him while doing it in a way where it's not going to directly come back on him. It's obviously him, but it's not going to tie back to him.
Yeah, as always, right? He's not directly involved, but he's orchestrating the the event happening. It was interesting to see that mention of Elk Sadal showing up because you're like, shit, man. I mean, obviously there's his teachers respect him from being in the class, but to actually show up to represent, or to back him up in something like this is kind of, saying a lot.
Part of it too, though, would be just self-preservation, because if
Oh yeah, that's true.
Kvothe
Because it is the
is,
university
yeah,
that's
if
being,
they see
yeah.
that they can take Kvothe out, then what's to stop them from deciding that they can now start taking out people like Elxadal and Elodin and all these guys for the same type of things, practicing
Well,
in dark
yeah,
arts.
well, yeah, and then that's the bigger thing that we'll get to it, but Kvothe doesn't initially see it, where it's like, dude, you're kind of fucking it up for everybody here,
Yeah,
you know, by doing this. Now, what's so interesting about it and the way Rothfuss did it, he didn't do it on purpose, right? He called the wind in anger. He didn't mean to call the wind necessarily. He got super fucking pissed and it happened. But it is interesting that it comes back this much later because when reading this, you're kind of like, oh, I thought that was all over. I thought what was going to happen happened. He got whipped, everything, that's kind of water beneath the bridge at this point. But no, Ambrose doesn't give up. He is a son of a bitch.
I like too though that he just immediately goes from that. He tells you why, he works out why it's likely Ambrose that's the one that set him up for this, and then he just, because we hear about this in one of the beginning of the book, in the name of the wind, they talk about this, like him learning Tema in a day, and Old Cob was telling the story about this when he got arrested. And then when he just goes through the description of it, it's just bare bones. He's just like,
Yeah.
it took 6 days, disrupted my studies, couldn't work in the fishery, ended my chances of getting a patron. He's like, what started out as terrifying quickly became a tedious process filled with pomp and ritual. I defended myself to the best of my ability, first in the Commonwealth Court, then in the church courts as well. Arwyll and Elxidal spoke on my behalf, or rather they wrote letters, then read them aloud to the court. In the end, I was cleared of any wrongdoing. I thought I was vindicated. I thought I had won, but I was still terribly naive in many ways. So he just blows through that.
You gotta imagine, too, his personality having to sit there through all this shit. 40 letters of testimony read aloud, confirmed, copied into the official records. Be fucking boring as shit.
Yeah,
like,
and you're
sitting there having to listen to it.
It's kind of like dealing with like that Maer with his family in one of the first chapters, in like chapter 8, and Name of the Wind, when like that guy is just shitting on the Ademaru. He's just a stupid, ignorant man, and Kvothe is just fuming, sitting there having to listen. It's like, why do I have to even fucking listen to? Why do we have to even put up with this fucking shit? And then he's in a situation here where they're threatening to, string him up and set him on fire and torch him. And so his life's on the line. But it's like, what are you guys talking about? Like demonic, consorting with demonic powers and shit. Like, this is ridiculous. This is so barbaric and ridiculous. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, it is still very interesting that, like you say, this gets talked about early. We get to it. We all expect when we're reading it, okay, so we're going to hear this trial. Nope. And then the fact that he kind of teases out exactly why, and it makes sense for the characters. Like, yeah, this shit was tedious. I don't want to rehash this shit. It's out there. If you want to find it, they got court records and whatnot. And I don't want to fucking talk about it.
Which is funny though, because like he'll spend a bunch of time talking about like digging through the archives for a one specific book, and he'll spend chapters talking about like just searching through the archives for books, but then like learning a large piece of a language in a day or a day and a half. He's just like doesn't even mention it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we get a whole story about him riding a horse. Right?
Yeah,
I mean that's a pretty long and lengthy story. It's great. It's fucking interesting as shit. And I guess we get a piece of like when he learns Chronicler's cipher. I would feel like it'd be something like that if he was to like show how he picked up as much of the language as he was able to. But yeah, maybe I mean, who knows? Maybe Rothfuss tested it out and it was like, this won't be that interesting to read. So he just took the other route. I mean, it does give Kvothe a bit of humility to not visit it and to not be like, yeah, this is how I did it.
Yeah, and it, if it allows Kvothe to start skipping over events because he's been, walking through every single thing that he's done. Like he's not skipping much time. I mean, we're getting, and years have to go by before we get to where he's at in the bar. And so true. It starts giving that ability to just start skipping over, chunks of the story.
It's great though, because this is kind of, like you said, this is kind of the first time we get it where there's a skip and Chronicler gets all butthurt. And I mean, we'll do that in the next chapter, but it's funny that he had that, or Rothfuss put in that reaction, right? Because that's what readers could be like, well, what the fuck, man? We missed out on all that? Yeah. So Chronicler represents that.
Yeah, and he's going to do it again just in a handful of chapters where he's just going to be like, this great trip where he's, on a ship that's attacked and sunk and he almost drowns. He's robbed. He's begging on the streets of Junpui and, fucking arrives to the mayor's place broke with none of his belongings other than his loot. And it's just like, yeah, so we're skipping over all of that. Just give you He basically gave the I've loved, lost, was trusted and betrayed. Write that down in your book.
Well, I mean, yeah, he essentially tells us, as well as, well, it's Kvothe telling Chronicler and Rothfuss telling us, I don't give a shit how you want the story. This is how you're going to get it.
Yeah.
It's my fucking story. I'll tell you how I want to tell it.
Yeah.
And it is funny too, because it speaks to Chronicler's, arrogance, and where he just keeps, we hear a couple times like, I know how to pull a story out of somebody, and then Kvothe has to check his ass. Like, I keep getting ahead of us, but
I don't particularly miss. This isn't part of the story where I was like, oh man, I wish we heard about that. Like, unless there's some interesting thing about how he learned a language in a day and a half, I feel like that's the only piece of information I need, is that he did it. I don't really need to know like how he did it or anything like that.
I kind of assume we get that with some of the sympathetic bindings where he makes a song out of it.
Yeah.
Right? I imagine there's probably something in regards to that. He's a fucking genius too.
Yeah.
So, he's got this memory, he's got a sharp mind. I mean, imagine what it would be like. And there you go.
We saw him learn the cipher, and so it's like, all right, I get it. Yeah, I don't need that information. The pirate attack and stuff, I would have liked to hear about that, but this wasn't one that I was particularly concerned about. But yeah, Chronicler is definitely concerned. And so in that, we get chapter 46, interlude, A Bit of Fiddle. In this chapter, we go into an interlude back at the Waystone Inn. Chronicler is a bit miffed about not getting the full account of the trial, but Kvothe is completely uninterested in telling it. And a large number of people from the town come in to drink, eat, and have Chronicler write their wills and such.
I do like one part of that story, though, that does seem pretty great, is that he spoke his own defense, did it apparently in a tremendous way, and was even applauded by the people that were there. Like, shit, man. That's
well, and he's like, it's a bunch of nonsense.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
Well, and the way he says it is weird too. He's like, a lot of nonsense, I expect. And I guess the I expect is like whatever story you've heard, I'm sure it's a lot of nonsense. But I like the fact, he stands up. Let's pause there for now. Chronicler's like, oh, wait a minute. It's like, this was the trial? The big trial. He's like, this is the first thing I've ever fucking heard about you. I'm talking about it. It's like, a lot of nonsense, I expect. You got the bones of it.
Well, and he goes as far as, dude, look, if you're desperate for it, find it elsewhere. Dozens of people saw the trial. There's already 2 full written accounts. And that's when he's like, wait, you've already spoken to a historian about this? And he
does a bad job of sales. Like, even just reading it, I can hear like him trying to wheedle out the information about the paper that Bass said, the biography that he had started and that he gave up on. I already know that's what he's trying to wheedle out here when he's like, wait a minute, you've already told this story?
Yeah, he's being.
I already know where he's going with it and what he's trying to do. And it's like, man, this Rothfuss did a good job in the fact that you can tell what he's trying to get at, in that information. He's not super coy about it, but it would be hard for Kvothe to see that. But since we already know that Chronicler knows about this piece of information, we can tell what he's really getting at.
Part of that also is, Chronicler's all affronted, and he began to unscrew and clean the brass nib of the pen on a cloth with an air of vast irritation. If you already had all this written down, you could have saved me cramping my hand for the last day and a half. And then again, Kvothe's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then again, he keeps going in that same direction. And then, how much this paper cost me? As if it's all just a fucking waste. And then Bast basically pulls a sim.
Well, and not only that, Chronicler is like, you you rode all the way to your trial in Imre. So he's like, that's how you've been able to rattle off this story like this.
Yeah.
He's like, you already laid all this groundwork. He's like, no, man, I got nowhere near that. It's like, I barely got anything written down. He's like, I wasn't good at it.
Well, yeah, no, he's like, yeah, it was quite a while ago. I don't even know if I remember where the pages are. And when I was saying Bass pulls a sim, he's like, oh, they're up in your room, Reshi, right on the desk. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. Like,
yeah, well, except for Bast is purposely, Sim accidentally spills beans. Bast is like purposely, he wants that information to come out. He wants him to share all this stuff. So yeah, Bast, pulls a sim in Kvothe's size, but it's more, more devious than Sim ever is.
Yeah, and then between Bast and Chronicler, you get that Bast, good try, but it's a lost cause. I've tried. Don't coach me. I know how to get a story out of a person. Yeah. Where it's that Chronicler's arrogance again, where they're trading back and forth when Kvothe's out of the room.
I also like this part, like when Chronicler's like Kvothe goes and starts preparing food and everything, and Chronicler looks at Bast like, shouldn't you go help him? Bast just shrugs. It's like he's lounging further in his chair. It's like, no, and then Kvothe completely manipulates the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And so he like goes, well, first off, when he comes back in, Chronicler's like, where are these records? He's like, Commonwealth Courts, keeps painstaking records, and the church is even more obsessive. And he's asking about it. He's like, yeah, but, your account of the trial would be tedious. Endless formal speeches and readings from the Book of the Path. It was tedious to live through, and it would be tedious to repeat. I've probably kept us at the university too long anyways. We'll need time for other things no one has ever seen or heard. And you get the, Reshi, no! First you think he's talking about, like, you can't tell about these things, and then it's, no, beets? Like, don't put beets in the soup.
That's an interesting... Sorry, I was just going to say that's an interesting twist, because I remember reading that and I'm like, wait, we're leaving the university? Like, oh, fuck. Like, it's kind of, I mean, in retrospect, it's a chapter that it's not that pivotal and that important, but it is when you're reading through it the first time, because you're kind of like on the edge of like, all right, what's coming up here? Where are we going with this? It's one of those transitions, because we're in transitional chapters here.
Yeah, it gives you a heads up. It gives you a heads up that when we get back at it, he's not long for the university, that the story is going to change directions.
Well, and what you're saying, though, with Reshi, no, with Bast reacting the way you are, Rothfuss is playing with us. And it's I mean, I'm sure he enjoyed it, and it's fun. It's kind of fun to go through that. Reading it again this time through it is like, Jesus, man, like, a little over the top about beats.
Yeah.
They're that bad?
Well, one of the interesting things, like, I think is, the Fae are obviously, they have a real big problem with iron, and beats are super heavy in iron. So I thought that I would be shocked if Rothfuss did that unintentionally. I think he probably chose beats because of the fact that they're rich in iron.
It also works in the sense that a lot of people don't like beats.
Yeah.
Kvothe says a lot of people like beets. It's like, most people would say they taste like dirt. That's what a lot of people would say.
And not only that, it's interesting in the fact that he did it intentionally. He's manipulating fast.
Yeah.
He's like, Chronicler's over there like, shouldn't you go help? And Kvothe's like, yeah, I got this. I'm going to just bring out beets, and that'll get him to do all this work.
Yeah, since I'm finishing the soup, I get to pick what goes in it. All right. Get the fuck out of here. I'll make the shit. Go get me this, this, and this. I think, and I think this might be one of those things that adds up on what a lot of people want to be true, which I don't think is that Bast is Kvothe and Florian's son. I think that's what a lot of people, I think it's things like this where they're like, well, maybe that's, because of what he's doing. This is what a parent does to their kid. It's one of those little things that they do.
Yeah, I don't get the impression from listening to Rothfuss, and I definitely don't get the impression from the story that it's a father and son relationship. it seems like a buddy relationship, like they're friends.
It does to me as well, and it's also, I mean, there's the problem. Well, I think the way people can get it to fit. By the way, I've never read this. I just heard one or two people mention it, and I can see where it's tempting because he is with Florian. He does sleep with her. We know Bass is from the Fae. There's the time. There's the time difference where he could age so long, right? So that's where you can make it fit. I don't personally get that impression, but I think I would imagine it's probably out there where a lot of people are throwing that out there because they want it to fit. And I haven't read, I actually have the book in front of me. I got it from the library. The short story about Bast, which, I mean, you've kind of told me you read it and there's not a lot there that's going to tell you who he is or anything, or more about who he is.
Yeah. It's, you get little pieces of information, but nothing like super major. But the, I just don't see it. And Rothfuss has described their time in the Fae together as like a buddy cop thing. And so I just, like, that doesn't ring as a father-son relationship.
So, like,
that's not how you would describe a father-son, meeting.
So like a Will Ferrell, Marky Mark relationship.
Yeah.
Like a car covered in cocaine.
Yeah, like, Bass is like a lion, and Will Ferrell's an 800-pound tuna.
I love that scene, man.
So great.
It's so fun.
It's not didn't go how you thought it would, did it?
And now we have a taste for meat. We have a taste for lion meat.
First off, a lion against a tuna?
I imagine we're in, I can't remember all the details, but
imagine we're off the coast of South America.
Yeah.
Or
he
South
picks
Africa.
the terrain.
Yeah.
And then they make breathing apparatuses out of bamboo or something.
Yeah. It's like, now we got a taste for lion. And now we hunt. We go onto the beach and we hunt you. It's like, we can't go, for long periods of time. But like, for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we can start, making a bridge over there.
Yeah, so that's what I'm picturing. I'm picturing that's what it is. I've never looked up the derivation of Reshi, but I imagine people throw that in there too.
Yeah, that's another one of those scenes cracks me up is when he puts in his little river band or whatever, the music that he plays, and Marky Mark takes the CD and just like throws it out the window, and Will Ferrell just smacks him in the face with the wooden gun, and then then just turns it to another CD. He's like got the same CD on like 9 different tracks.
Yeah, I always got a lot of little river band.
Yeah,
loaded up.
Yeah, so fucking great.
Such
a classic fucking scene.
The bad cop is tremendous.
Yeah.
Where Marky Mark is bad cop, and then he just fucking flips out bad cop. Like, I went so far, I just thought I had to go, bigger. It's like, no, it's good cop, bad cop.
I knew I was going to love that movie in the very beginning when The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson are chasing down those robbers, and they climb up to the top of that roof, and they're just like, it's like, you think of what I'm thinking? Let's go for it. Let's go. And they jump off, and they're just playing like, there goes my hero. And then they just splat on the ground. Everybody's just like, what were they thinking? They just like jumped off a roof. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah,
as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm going to love this movie.
Yeah, classic. That was a great twist, because also, yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of, because you don't know they're in the movie, and then you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like, they're like they're stars in this movie that aren't even in the previews? Oh, they die. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
They're out in the first 5 minutes.
And Michael Keaton, man. I'm a big Michael Keaton fan.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we got a few.
Yeah.
They threw a few in there.
Well, you should have seen it. It's been a long time.
Yeah, if you didn't see it, then go see it. And, we didn't ruin everything.
No,
just
it's a comedy.
Parts.
Come on.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
But, yeah, so he manipulates Bast into, making the soup, and then a bunch of customers come in, and you got Chronicler. He's doing a brisk business, they say, as he's writing wills for people and putting down papers for them. And then Bast and the man who called himself Kote worked together as a comfortable team. They served up soup and bread. Men and women smiled and relaxed, glad to be off their feet and sitting in the shade. The room was full of the gentle buzz of conversation as folk gossiped with neighbors they had known their whole lives. Familiar insults, soft and harmless as butter, were traded back and forth, and friends had comfortable arguments about whose turn it was to buy the beer. But underneath it all, there was a tension in the room. A stranger would never have noticed it, but it was there, dark and silent as an undertow. No one spoke of taxes or armies or how they'd begun to lock their doors at night. No one spoke of what had happened in the inn the night before. No one eyed the stretch of well-scrubbed wooden floor that didn't show a trace of blood. So he immediately, you start to get like a bustling scene and like some energy into the room, and then Rothfuss immediately pulls that back. And he's like, but the world is fucked up. Don't forget.
Yeah. I love that, man. It's so great. Reminds me of like Hitchcock, the idea of no one looks at where this dude was killed. The fact that there is doesn't show any trace of blood, but everybody's avoiding looking at that thing. So just that area, that object in itself represents like just how bad shit is really getting. I mean, it's ratcheted up huge. I mean, with the Scrael, with all these other things, and they're just not talking about it because they want to keep that semblance of life can still be decent, even though our numbers our time may be numbered here.
Yeah, and it's, they're kind of going through the motions and trying to they're all pretty much just ignoring their problems, at least for the moment. They're trying to just put it to the side for a moment. And so, I mean, keep in mind this like place, there was just a murder in this restaurant the night before, like 12 hours before.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't like, a couple drunks fought and,
no,
a guy died.
Some fucked up demon monster. I mean, now obviously they think it's just some guy that was like a dinner addict is what the story that went through. But they have had to have heard that, the story's about a demon. And this is one day, the day prior to that, there was the Scrael, the big spider fucking creature. So they got to be like, what the fuck's going on at this bar?
Yeah. Yeah, they're still all hanging out there.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough.
Gotta get my papers. Gotta get my will done. So yeah, they're willing to risk it, but yeah, it brings back that ominous tone, and then you get the old, hello, Kote, as Old Cob comes bustling in. Got a bit of a crowd in here today. Old Cob would definitely be like, it's a hot one today.
Yeah, dude, he's that guy.
Yeah,
he's that fucking guy. It's so funny how it took no time for me to be reminded how much I dislike this dude.
Yeah, I like him in a lot of respects, and then he would drive me nuts and a bunch of others. But like, he's like a good-hearted dude. Like, he's a good, loyal, hard-working dude. But he's also annoying.
Dude, I would have a lot of trouble being around this guy. He would annoy the bejesus out of me the way that he is.
Yeah, I would constantly have to remind myself that, like, all right, man, he works hard, he cares, he's probably generous.
It just has these awful traits of, I'm the storyteller. Everybody shut the fuck up.
It's a hot one today. Oh, is it a hot one? Is it a hot one? Because I didn't know. Because, I was just out in the hot one.
Yeah, he's definitely that guy, man. He would be that guy.
But
not only that, he would be like, but do you know how hot it is? Because how hot I was, this is how hot I was. These are the details about how hot I was. I was way hotter than you. I was out there working my ass off. What were you doing? Oh, you were working? I was working harder, and I was hotter. I was much hotter.
Yeah. I was much hotter than you. I sweat so much today. Way more than you've sweated.
Prove it. Prove it.
But I like that I like this bull-shouldered man. You know, he drops the plate down and he's like,
Elias.
That was a damn fine pie. And a thin woman with a pinched face stood next to him. Don't you cuss, Elias, she said sharply. There's no call for that. Oh, honey, the big man said, don't get yourself in a twit. Damn fine is a kind of apple, isn't it? He grinned around at the folks sitting at the bar. Sort of a foreign apple from off an Ater. They named it after Baron Damfine, if I remember correct. Graham grinned back at him. I think I heard of that. The woman glared at all of them. I got these from the Bentons, the innkeeper said meekly. Oh, the big farmer said with a smile. That's my mistake, Finn. He picked up a crumb off the crust from the plate and chewed it speculatively. I'd swear it was a damn fine pie for all that. Maybe the Bentons got them some damn fine apples and don't know it.
I wonder if the Baron Damfine has any daughters.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got some damn fine daughters.
His wife sounds like a not very fun person to be around.
No, this is one of the parts that I liked about Old Cob, where he watched them go, shaking his head. I don't know what that woman needs in her life to make her a little happy, he said, but I hope she finds it before she pecks old Eli bloody. Jake and Graham made vague grumbles of agreement. But yeah, she doesn't sound that fun. Like, lighten up. And it was like, all right, you're going to give him shit about cussing. Okay, fine. Once he turns it into a funny joke, like, lighten up. And then it's funny.
Yeah. It's not a big deal. The people are dying all around us. Like, lighten the fuck up, man. He's saying it's a good pie. He's, emphasizing it by cursing. I think you're okay with that, clearly.
I never cuss, so I have a problem with curse words. But, I mean, that fucking bitch.
I was going to say, I curse quite a bit. And even when I listen to episodes, I'm like, damn, Dan really curses a lot.
I don't. I really don't. I don't.
You're just so passionate.
I can't think of a time that I do. Look, I find the word fuck is a very versatile word. And so
it is extraordinarily versatile. I can't argue with that.
Into my conversation. I don't like curse that much just in general if I'm talking to people. But when I'm just like chilling and hanging out and talking shit about a book, yeah, F words are flowing out my mouth left and right. It's just going to happen. People just, got to deal with it. That's the way I talk. Treat this like you're listening to us in a bar room. This is not in a library.
Why not? Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with it. I'm just saying, I'm sure it bothers some people because
this, fucking hen pecking fucking bitch of a woman.
Oh, don't get yourself in a twit. Or no, that's what he says. Don't you cuss. There's no call for that.
Yeah, but then Old Cob brings up you got a good crowd in here. You make some good food, and he brings up the fact that what would really spruce up the place is some music. It's like a little music is just what this place needs. And the innkeeper nodded. His expression was so easy and amiable, it almost wasn't an expression at all. I expect you're right, Kvothe said. His voice was perfectly calm. It was a perfectly normal voice. It was colorless and clear as window glass. Old Cob opened his mouth, but before he could say anything else, Bass rapped one knuckle hard on the bar. Drinks? He asked the men sitting at the bar. I'm guessing you'd all like something before we bring you out a bite to eat. They did, and Bass bustled around behind the bar, pulling beer into mugs and pressing them into waiting hands. After a slow moment, the innkeeper swung silently into motion alongside his assistant, heading into the kitchen to fetch soup and bread with butter and cheese and apples. I like the way Rothfuss writes that. That's a good example of kind of how clever a writer he is. The fact that he's like, it was a perfectly calm voice. It was colorless. And like he describes it in a way where if you just read the words, like you would think nothing's amiss. But the way he writes it, you can picture Kvothe, like when he hears that, twists him up inside, and he's just putting on a face for these people. But Rothfuss describes that by describing it in the opposite way. He does not describe the fact that what's going on inside Kvothe. He just describes the outward expression, but the fact that he emphasized that shows that this is twisting Kvothe up when he hears about this. So it's like kind of an interesting way that he writes it.
Yeah, I mean, he implies basically zero inflection, which is also a way of saying, it's kind of, in a way, it's Kote or Kvothe's way of saying, yeah, maybe you're right. Now shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah.
In a way. And you know what it tells me? I don't think Kvothe likes Roy Orbison. Because what it seemed like old Patty was doing here is, hell, even the Orison boy can play a bit of his daddy's fiddle. I think he's insinuating that he wants to hear some Roy Orbison. And Kote's like, yeah, fuck that noise. I'm not a big Roy Orbison fan.
I don't think anybody is. Like, I mean, no one's even heard of him.
Well, Pretty Woman. I know you've heard that song.
Nope.
That's Roy Orbison.
No, I never heard of that.
Pretty Woman. Okay, well, I don't know what to say to that then.
Sounds like
you may have seen. Have you seen the movie Waterboy? Since we're talking about movies,
I have seen Waterboy.
Okay, his coach has Roy Orbison's face tattooed on his ass.
I don't remember that.
The guy that plays the Fonz plays the Waterboy's coach.
Yeah, what's his name? Henry Winkler?
That's it, Henry Winkler, yeah.
Yeah, see, I know him.
I wonder if Henry Winkler actually has that tattoo, do you think? Or do you think it was just for the movie?
You should have brought up Henry Winkler instead of that guy, because I know him, and I would get that reference.
Well, that wouldn't really make sense with the music and Orbison.
Yeah, but
we
still,
got there.
Yeah, I think you should bring up references that I
wonder.
It works better.
You think Henry Winkler's that much of a method actor, like that he gets a tattoo for
he definitely got that tattoo. Sandler yeah. He definitely got that. He was like, man, I gotta buy in.
I'm all in, man.
Yeah.
I'm all in. He reads the script, shows up, and Adam Sandler's like, so what'd you think of the script? And he shows him his ass.
Yeah.
That's how much I loved it.
That's how he got the part. He's Henry Winkler is like auditioning hard as shit for every part he gets. Like when he for Arrested Development, he went and passed the bar, became a legitimate lawyer.
Dude, actually, now that I think about it, those two parts, he's a good actor, man. He does a really good job in both of those parts. I never watched Happy Days.
He's hilarious. He's good in when he plays the acting coach for Barry on HBO, where Barry's a serial or a hitman, and he goes like to Hollywood to perform a hit, and then the guy that he's supposed to kill like goes to his acting class, and Henry Winkler's the teacher, and so he sits in on this guy's class, and then gets like amped up about like, oh, man, I think I want to do this. I want to be an actor. But he's a hitman. Ah, yeah, Henry Winkler.
Oh wait, Henry Winkler's the acting coach?
Yeah.
Not the hitman? Oh, okay.
He's phenomenal in it. He is hilarious. He's like this, like has been B-list actor, but he thinks of himself very highly, and so it's pretty fucking classic. And man, it's good. Barry on HBO, the third season is coming eventually. Like that show's definitely worth watching. I put it off for a long time, but one of our buddies kept mentioning it, so I finally checked it out. It's good. It's good shit. But yeah. So Henry Winkler, what else you got to say about him?
We got a lot of movie film references for some reason so far. But yeah, I think I'm going to go down that route. I'm going to start looking into more of his shit because I'm interested.
But that's all I got on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so chapter 47 is another interlude, the Hempen Verse. And in this chapter, Chronicler gets Old Cob to tell a mangled version of Kvothe's story about the trial in order to goad him into telling the real version. Kvothe gets annoyed, and in retaliation ends up making a tale about the Chronicler, painting him as a heroic figure and leaving Cobb and the gang to go spread it like wildfire.
Yeah, this is that example, one of the better examples where shows me how much I dislike Old Cob. He shows a lot of that attitude that I don't like about him. But then, yeah, Bast does a tremendous job with Kvothe of creating that story. But yeah, altogether, it's a pretty good chapter.
It's he tells a good story. It was too a demon, Jake. Old Cob was saying angrily. I told you last night, and I'll tell you again 100 times. I'm not one to change my mind like other folk change their socks. He held up a finger. Shit, bro. Called up a demon and bit this fellow and sucked out his juice like a plum. I heard it from a fella who knew a woman that seen it herself. That's why the constable and deputies came and hauled him off, meddling with dark forces against the law over in Auri. I still say folks just thought it was a demon, Jake persisted. You know how folks are. I know folk, Old Cob Scout. I've been around longer than you, Jacob. And I know my own story, too. There's a long moment of tense silence at the bar before Jake looked away. I was just saying, he muttered. I love that interaction because it's such a ridiculous story, too. And he's like, defending the shit out of it as if it's the gospel.
Yeah, I heard it from a fella, so not someone you know personally, from a fella who knew a woman that's seen it herself. I mean, that's pretty attached.
Wow. Well, what can you say against that? You heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy.
Yeah. Who are these people? Just some dude I heard talking about it, and he heard it from some chick, and yeah, so, you know. And yeah, he has to go as far as Jacob. I've been around longer than you, Jacob.
Like, I heard it from Crazy Martin. That's what made him crazy.
Yeah.
He heard that story, and he went fucking bananas.
I do love that he goes as far as saying, you know, I'm not one of those people that just changes their minds. It's like, yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
We know that about
you. That's clear. That's clear.
You have it all figured out. Yeah, those people aren't annoying at all when you talk to somebody that has it all figured out. That's not annoying.
Yeah, and then Kvothe interrupts and he's like, what's this then? The scribe gave the innkeeper a sly look. Cobb's telling us about Kvothe's trial in Auri, he said, a hint of smugness in his voice. Don't you remember? He started the story last night, but only made it halfway through. Now, Cobb glared around as if daring them to interrupt. It was a tight spot. Kvothe knew if he was found guilty, they'd string him up and let him hang. But Kvothe had read a great many books when he was at the university and knew himself a trick. Right? You see, there's 2 lines in the Book of the Path, and if you can read them aloud in the old Tema only priests know, then the Iron Law says you get treated like a priest. That means a Commonwealth judge can't do a damn thing to you. If you read those lines, your case has to be decided by the church's court. Those 2 lines are called the hempen verse because if you know them, you can keep yourself from getting strung up. The church courts can't hang a man, you see. What are the lines? Bass asked. I dearly wish I knew, Old Cob said mournfully, but I don't speak Tema. Kvothe didn't know it himself, but he memorized the verse ahead of time. Then he pretended to read it, and the Commonwealth Court had to let him go. Kvothe knew he had 2 days until a Talon justice could make it all the way to Auri, so he set about learning Tema. He read books and practiced for a whole day and a whole night, and he was so powerfully smart that at the end of his studying he could speak Tema better than most folk who had been doing it their whole lives. Then on the 2nd day before the justice showed up, Kvothe mixed himself a potion. It was made out of honey and a special stone you find in a snake's brain. And a plant that only grows at the bottom of the sea. Yeah, see? This fucking story is fucking spot on. How can you doubt this? You get a stone out of a fucking snake's brain. I mean, what's there to doubt? He's like, when he drank the potion, it made his voice so sweet anyone who listened couldn't help but agree with anything he said. So when the justice finally showed up and the trial only took 15 minutes, Cobb said, chuckling. Kvothe gave a fine speech in perfect Tema. Everyone agreed with him, and they all went home. And he lived happily ever after, the red-haired man said softly from behind the counter. I love how ridiculous the story is that Old Cobb has just been like, I know this damn story. Like, don't fucking change a word of it. Don't question anything of it. Like, this is 100% exactly the way it happened.
Yeah, I love the idea that he drinks something and his voice, because of like the sound and inflection of his voice, everyone's like under a spell.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck out of here.
Getting a rock from a snake's brain.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I also like Cobb admits, I don't speak Tema. Wait, really? You don't? Like, I thought you fucking knew everything, bro. I thought you knew it all.
He just knows stories, man. He's just he's an amazing storyteller, and you can't deny that. He tells a great story. And then
I would be very tempted if I was in a room with him to jump on him on shit like that.
I would just start booing every time he tells a story. Boo. 2 out of 5 stars. Didn't care for it. It insisted upon itself.
Yeah. All of his stories definitely insist upon themselves.
But yeah, then I like Kvothe jumping in and just flipping the script on Chronicler. It's like, I never cared for Kvothe stories myself. And he's like, if I'm gonna have a story with magic, I'd like to have a proper wizard in it. Someone like Taborlin the Great or Sarafa or the Chronicler. At the end of the bar, the scribe didn't choke or startle. He did pause for half a second, though, before lowering his spoon back into his second bowl of soup. And Graham speaks up. He's like, Chronicler? Who's that? It's like, oh, you definitely have heard of him. It's like, I mean, he's a huge figure. And he's like, they call him the Lord of Stories. And if he learns one of your secrets, he can write whatever he wants about you in his book. Haven't you ever heard of him? He asked Chronicler. And Chronicler drops his eyes and shook his head. He dipped the crust of his bread in his soup and ate it without speaking. He's got a bit of fairy blood in him, and it's made him sharper than a normal man. He can see for 100 miles on a cloudy day and hear a whisper through a thick oak door. He can track a mouse through a forest on a moonless night. I've heard of him, Bass said eagerly. I love this aspect too, Bass jumping in. It's like he's 100% game. Like, Bass would be a good wingman to have. Like, he's like, when you're playing a game, he's not going to try to spike your wheel. He's going to jump in. He's like, his sword's named Sheave, and the blade is made of a single piece of paper. It's light as a feather, but so sharp if it cuts you, you see the blood before you even feel it. The innkeeper nodded, and if he learns your name, he can write it on the blade of the sword and use it to kill you from 1,000 miles away. But he's got to write it in his own blood, Bass added. And there's only so much space on the sword. He's already written 17 names on it, so there's not much room left. He used to be a member of the High King's court in Modag, Kote said, but he fell in love with the High King's daughter. Graham and Old Cob were nodding now. This was familiar territory. I love that aspect of they're just like going back and forth, not missing a beat, fucking adding, just making up this bullshit story about Chronicler.
Yeah, no, I love the it's all about the details. Once they throw in these little details, and then you know exactly what's coming once he goes to, like, he used to be a member of the High King's court, fell in love, and then Graham and Old Cob are nodding. It gets familiar. You know what's coming. You know it's just going to be like, oh, Cob, like, oh, yeah, I know this story. Yeah. I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
Some shit they just made up.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, like, how to play that out. And again, I mean, it's the writing of Rothfuss that's so great is we get these sort of lighthearted chapters in that way that Old Cob is this, jovial sort of character in that circumstance where we get to laugh at him because he's like, oh yeah, I got it from here. I know what we're talking about. And then that's where it goes. But
yeah, it's great too. Like the fact that there's a lot of people that actually think that there's aspects of this story that are accurate. They think that Chronicler might be able to, have a form of written magic that most of the theories are along the lines that either Kvothe knows something about Chronicler that he hasn't let slip yet, or what by Kvothe saying these things, he's making them true about Chronicler, that he does have a form of written magic. So like the kind of theories behind it would be that I don't subscribe to these theories, but the theories behind it would be that now that Kvothe has said this, like Chronicler writing his story, he can make Kvothe back into himself through writing his story. And
well, we have Denna talking about that, right? I mean, we have that dialogue about, have you heard about written magic?
But that seems to be a specific thing. I mean, it seems to be that, it's a Yillish knot thing, not just you're just writing words on pieces of paper. That maybe that could be the case. We don't know for any kind of certainty, but it does seem like Yillish knots are specifically important. And so it seems like Yillish knots are the written magic, not, just writing words on pieces of paper.
Well, it does start to take a turn here where it starts to get fairly real to what we do know about how magic in the world works, because they get into, well, so Jake asked the question, why doesn't he just write about the king? As well, we skipped a little bit, but where he's basically going towards is when Chronicler asked to marry the princess that we're talking about, or the High King's daughter. The High King was angry, so he gave Chronicler a task to prove he was worthy. Chronicler can only marry her if he finds something more precious than the princess and gives it back to the king. And they play that out where it's like, well, shit, what do you bring back? Because you don't want to insult her and blah, blah, blah. And it goes to that, why doesn't he just write about the king in his magic book? Why doesn't he write down, and then the king stop being a bastard and let us get married already? And the innkeeper, Kote, says because he didn't know any of the king's secrets, and the High King of Modeg knows some magic he can protect himself. So, like, going from there, like, that reminds me of what we've heard from Elodin and the importance of names, and then he goes to something that we then, I think we've definitely speculated about Kote, where he says that most importantly, he knows Chronicler's weaknesses. He knows if you trick Chronicler into drinking ink, he has to do 3 favors, which is just whatever. But also the High King's name is written in a book of glass, hidden in a box of copper, and that box is locked away in a great iron chest where nobody can touch it.
Yeah, it kind of seems similar to the thrice locked box.
Yeah.
And so, that there could be something there like that once the 3rd book comes out, like there'll be some, hidden aspects. I definitely think that there could be some hidden things in this story that Kvothe's making up, because that's kind of his persona too, is like that when he's making up these stories, he takes from true aspects of a story and then just spend some bullshit off of some truth. So it could be that he's adding, some things that are part of his true story, that there's something about glass, a High King's name written in a book of glass. Could be something about a book of glass or a piece of glass hidden in a box of copper, and that box is locked away in a great iron chest where nobody can touch it. That could be something that's happened to him as well, that through some sort of magic that he has inscribed his name, his true name, to a piece of glass, and that's what he's hiding in the box. Could be. I mean, we don't know, but I would be surprised if there's nothing about this story that there's not hidden clues in it.
The thrice locked box is interesting in the way that it's utilized to be that vexing sort of force in the room with Kote early on, while we're still getting to know this world and what's bothering him and how he has these challenges that he can't rise up against. But to just have it be an object that we can pontificate about and speculate about and then never do anything with it, or similarly with the lockless box, like if we never got anything out of it, I would think it'd be pretty disappointing in the end. Now, he can do all kinds of different things and all this other fireworks and things that distract us where we don't give a shit. But what we've got up to this point, I want to know. I want to know more about what's up with them. I mean, they're intriguing in themselves. One of the really interesting things that gets thrown in here by Kvothe, the High King's name is written in a book of glass, hidden in a box of copper. So we get copper again.
Yeah. And the thrice locked box has got a copper lock on it. It's also got an iron lock on it. So there could be some aspects to this little part that has to do with the thrice locked box. I don't know if it's going to be something as crazy as like he's locked his name in the box. I don't think that's going to be the case. But I think there's obviously something of import is in that box. It's too much of a Chekhov's gun for it to not have any kind of, it's got to have some momentous importance. I don't know what it's going to be, but it wouldn't surprise me that once we know that when we look back on this section, it's going to be more obvious what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. It's great. It's super, super interesting because it's as mysterious as it is. It's physical. It's got that row of wood that has that mystique about it. And then when you bring in the lockless box with the row of wood, with the intricate details that only Kvothe's beautiful hands can feel, it's super cool. It's super intriguing because it's these objects that loom large in terms of the history because of how long they've had this lockless box, and then also Kvothe's thrice locked box, which is even more mysterious because we don't know how he got it. We don't know what the history is. We don't know what's inside. All of it. It's all just.
So
it's really interesting.
One thing I could see that it could be the case is that they open the doors of stone, and Denna has to sacrifice herself. Like she locks the door again to keep Ajax from escaping. Like he lets out things like the Scrael and everything, but Denna sacrifices herself to shut the door, and she locks herself behind it with Ajax. And so I could see like that. It sounds like there's some glass piece inside the lackless box that Melwyn has. Mm-hmm. And so I could see that it has like Ajax's name or something along those lines, his true name. And you have to speak that name to open the doors of stone or something along those lines. And so now Kvothe has this, and he's locked that in his thrice locked chest. And then he did something as far as like changing his name or, breaking his alar, losing his powers, that he would need those to be able to open the box. And so now that what's tearing at him, and the reason he's desperate to get into it and he's kind of torn about it, it could be that he knows Denna is trapped, behind the doors of stone and sacrificed herself. And so he'd like to be able to get into the box to be able to, free her or try to save her. But he's also knows that he can't do it and he shouldn't do it. And, so it could be like some kind of conflict of interest along those lines. I could see a scenario where that plays out, where that would be what would tear at him, that he opened the door, unleashed a flood, and Denna closed it up, and he's trying to do the right thing, but he's also desperate to, get back to Denna.
I like the idea that he's not hiding, he's guarding the box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the reason why he's in hiding is because he's guarding something that he can't have found. And he's the only one that can wield this. It would be really interesting if the way the story goes, we actually get caught up to present day and then go further.
I don't think we'll get that. That would be pretty
interesting. I don't think we would either, but I just haven't thought about it until now. Like it would be because it doesn't seem like that's what's been playing out with the story. It seems like Kvothe knows the end of the story, and that's what we're getting.
Yeah,
is the story up to this point. But I kind of like the idea that even taking it that much further, it's intriguing in the sense that we've been postured in this certain area for such a long time that to then come off of that point is really interesting. I love the whole format is tremendous anyway, because we get to go into these interlude chapters and have this stepped back approach where he's feeding us little bits of how their world works through. This is a great example where we don't really know how much Kvothe is just doing to sort of twist their nips about, this interesting story that is a great story. You hear little details like this. It's super interesting and cool and what have you. But we know from what we've read, and we know that, and I think it was even in some of these chapters where he talks more about how stories are the world and the world are the stories, that they make the world how it is, but he's also weaving in his own experience. And I mean, it plays a part in this. So
yeah, I think it's almost surely gonna end tragically, and so that's why I always try to like look at it as like, you know, how would you end this tragically? And so like Denna, you know, and you got to take into the fact that there's something major going on with Denna. And so, like, how could you tie these things together? And you could have a scenario where Denna plays the role of the actual hero, and she, you know, somewhat saves the day and prevents, you know, the absolute destruction of the world, prevents the Chandrian from accomplishing the goal. Maybe the Chandrian want to release Ajax so he can fucking, you know, destroy the world for them. And Denna sacrifices herself to stop that, and then Kvothe knows that he can open the door, but he's got to prevent it from being opened again. And he knows that he will be tempted to open it again if he gains, you know, if he doesn't lock away this information in a permanent way. And so that's why he's Kote, is he's locked away his ability to change what has happened.
So he made that decision, and now he has to live with it.
Yeah.
But he's given himself a puzzle where if he can solve it, then he can be tempted to then try to rescue Denna from behind the door, Auri, or whatever, you know, ends up being out there.
Yeah, I could see it being a scenario like that.
I mean, that's the type of tragedy that lives on, right? I mean, so we end up with she's still out there, and there's still something he can do about it, and what twists inside of him is that he can't.
Yeah.
Right? Even if he wants to, he can't.
If he was himself, he could, but he's prevented himself from, you know, becoming who he is again. And so and you could see a scenario where, you know, Chronicler wakes him up and brings him back to himself, and then Kvothe has got to do something, sacrifice himself to prevent, you know, because like so much of the story is about Kvothe making these rash decisions that have catastrophic effects, and maybe it's going to end with him resisting the urge to do something stupid and doing something that would that he wants, because the consequences of it are going to be too great, and so that he sacrifices himself to prevent himself from fucking shit up further. It would be a growth in him, in finally recognizing that he's got to be different.
That's a very fitting dilemma for him, and it is a growth, and it represents a growth where he has to. It's not humbling himself; it is in a way, but it's also it's doing what is the most difficult thing, and he doesn't get to win.
No,
that's very difficult for especially his character to give that up.
And to give up Denna, you know.
Yeah, Jesus.
So I'd be surprised if the thrice locked box is not directly tied with the Chandrian, Denna, and Ajax. That's kind of the theory that obviously you can't point to direct evidence of this, you know, it's going to happen because of this and this and this, all point to that. But you could try to come up with scenarios where these pieces would all fit together into a tragedy. And that's one of the ones that I toy with the most, is that there's going to be some aspect of Ajax is linked to Haliax. And so that if you open that door, that would allow Ajax to, you know, come into his full being again and unleash hell on the world, or allow the Chandrian to destroy the world, or, you know, something along those lines. And then Denna is the actual hero of the story, and Kvothe has had to make a major sacrifice to, prevent himself from doing something stupid like he always does.
Yeah, I mean, that's ties her up pretty nicely. I mean, when it comes down to it, obviously there's nothing but speculation. There is no clear, concise. You can't do that. You can't come out and say, well, this is exactly how it ends. Nobody knows that. Maybe Rothfuss knows that, but I like it. I like it in the sense that it's building up in this. I mean, it's building to this crescendo of sorts with these characters. And I remember you mentioned that a few episodes back about perhaps Denna is actually the hero. And yeah, I kind of dig that. And so Kvothe is basically he's a force, and he's going to be pivotal, and he's going to make it. Yeah, he's going to make that difficult decision, which would make what you're saying was basically makes Denna the hero because she ends up being the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, and then once you tie that in with the Mario Brothers and the Lone Ranger and Twilight, and the boy band and Jack in the Box, like it fits with everything. I mean, it fits perfectly. Man.
What happens with Jack in the Box? I mean, Braden's just going to have to find some underlings, or Denna's been, finding some. She's been training some people to take over.
Yeah, that's part of her heroism. Heroism is that she sacrifices herself, and then as she's shutting the doors of stone closed, she throws out her key card, her badge to Auri, who snatches it up, and she, like a light shines down on her, and she's like now the district manager of 6 Jack in the Boxes.
She takes over, and she yells real quick, like, the schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the power that imparts on her when she catches the key card. She's like, I know the schedule. It's like instead of He-Man, like, I have the power. She's like, I know the schedule. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a very... So, I mean, it's tragic, but there's going to be some high moments. There's your high moment. That's definitely a high moment. That's going to be awesome.
I mean, speaking of really just, weaving a wonderful tale out of what we have here, Old Cob does it as well, where he says that he picks up the story. That last bit tickled my memory. I seem to remember a story about this Chronicler fellow going to look for a magic fruit. Whoever ate the fruit would suddenly know the names of all things, and he'd have powers like Taborlin the Great. Like, what the fuck? Like, going off of what they just said, pretty weak.
Yeah, but the innkeeper, fruit? I mean, Kvothe's like, I think I kind of remember that too.
Yeah. Well,
but it was a long time ago, and I can't say I remember all the details. Old Cob said as he drank the last of his beer and knocked down his mug. Nothing to be ashamed of, Kote. Some folk are good at remembering, and some ain't. You make a fine pie, but we all know who the storyteller is around here.
Jesus. Yeah, man, your magical fruit. So basically, it's a Chronicler goes and eats some beans and knows the names of all things. Gets a little gassy on the road. Fucking ridiculous.
Gets a double cheeseburger and a taco from Jack in the Box.
So Old Cob is the guy that buys his favorite team's jersey and gets storyteller on the back.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Yeah.
Storyteller.
Yeah.
Oh, where'd that come? Oh no, I got it. I got it on eBay.
He's definitely buying custom jerseys with his name and nickname on the back.
Yeah, he's also that guy. He's the guy that gives himself a nickname.
Yeah.
That is his style for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes around calling himself the class clown. Yeah, that's me. I'm the class clown. And so when, at the end
nobody
of the year,
thinks you're funny.
Remember when you're voting at the end of the year, remember class clown right here.
Yeah.
That's me. Old Cob, class clown.
That's his yearbook, his yearbook quote, his senior quote. Like, you're class clown here.
Everyone just looks at it like, wait, what? This guy says he's the class clown? Yeah, he was a douchebag. I hated that guy.
Old
He was
Cob,
the
class
worst.
clown. Why'd the chicken cross the road?
That's that was when he was young Cobb. And he was
Yeah.
just Cobb. He was old Cobb.
He was always Old Cob. He was always known as Old Cob. That's how he got his nickname. They were all like fucking corn cob motherfucker.
Yeah,
He's corny as shit.
He's I like it. Yeah, he's super corny.
Yeah.
So they name him Old Cobb. He doesn't get it.
Yeah.
He's like,
He
yeah,
just-
I like that.
I like
yeah,
that. Old Cob, yeah. like corn, like healthy, like, fulfilling. Good
Yeah.
crop. Like, yeah, that's what we meant.
Yeah, we always see it in your shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't digest.
That's you. That's you, Old Cobb.
But yeah, and then Chronicler, when they leave's like, what the hell, man? What was that? And he's like, how's it feel? People out there telling your stories. He's like, it's just a bunch of nonsense. It's like, not nonsense. Might not be true, but it doesn't mean it's nonsense. I like the paper sword, Bassbeam. The king's task was a nice touch, Rushy. I don't know about the fairy blood, though. Demon blood would have been too sinister, Kvothe said. He needed a twist. At least I won't have to hear him tell it, Chronicler said sullenly, prodding a bit of potato with a spoon. I like that where Kvothe's like, nah, man, you don't get this. It was like, This isn't just going to die here. This story is going to spread like wildfire, and it's going to go from town to town to town to town. He's like, this will forever chase you for the rest of your life. He's like, not only did I get revenge on you, I got some sick ass revenge where now when you tell people you're the Chronicler, they're going to be trying to pour ink into your drink so you start granting them wishes. You're going to be fucking drinking ink in your beer for the rest of your life. So think about that before you fucking try to force me to tell a story I don't want to tell you, dick.
Yeah, I love, like, we know, and this is coming from somebody who knows how to spread a story. He's been doing this, like, for a huge portion of his life. But yeah, the way he describes it is great, where he's like, a fresh story like that on a harvest day. They'll be at it like a child with a new toy. Old Cob will talk about Chronicler to a dozen people while they're bucking hay and drinking water in the shade. Then tonight at Shep's wake, folk from 10 towns will hear about the Lord of Stories. It'll spread like fire in a field. And yeah, it'll keep going. I hadn't connected that, what you just said, though. The ink in his drinks. Yeah, that's pretty funny. He kind of fucked him over there.
Yeah, that one's going to fucking stick him.
And when it's funny, too, because Kvothe's like, it's a gift. And Chronicler's like, you think I want this? And he's like, you think I want fame? And Kvothe's like, it's not fame, it's perspective. You go rummaging around in other people's lives, hearing rumors, and you think you're entitled to the story. It's basically his way of saying, go fuck yourself.
Well, not only that, like, you also get that you hear rumors and go digging for the painful truth beneath the lovely lies. So he's like, look, you want my story, and I told you in the beginning, like, what else could break me other than to retell this story? You're getting me to tell a very painful story. This is a story where my parents die, and likely a lot of other people in book 3 die that are close to him. And he loses everything. Has to fake his own death and go into hiding. This is a tragic story. And he's telling this to Chronicler. And he's like, so no, you don't get to dig into all this pain and then start, telling me how and what stories I need to focus on, and I owe this to you. He's like, no, I'm doing this. I'm giving this to you. And this is a fucking gift. I don't owe you this shit. I don't owe you anything. And you're going to be drinking fucking ink beer for the rest of your life because you fucking didn't learn that lesson sooner.
Well, and yeah, so there were a couple times they went through this, and he does. It's interesting when Chronicler admits, that he's like, it was a little heavy-handed, wasn't it? Kvothe says it was. And then this type of thing always bothers me. I like that Kvothe calls him out on it, because Chronicler goes, well, you can't blame me for trying. And Kvothe's like, I can, actually. but I believe I made my point. But my phrases like that always bother me, where people are like, "Well, you can't blame me for trying." Well, you can, because you're doing something against me that I disagree with. It's almost like every time I hear someone say, "Well, it's the least I could do." No, the least you could do is nothing.
Yeah.
That would be the least. The least would be doing absolutely nothing. Or like another phrase that kind of reminds me of that type of thing is like somebody does something and they go, "Oh, that's my good deed for the day." Like, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like, first of all, you're saying, "Did you see what I did?
Yeah.
You see that? You see the good thing I did?"
I would like see that back? That back needs some patting.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But then twisting it around to like, "Okay, but I'm done though. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything else good for people. Fuck everybody."
Yeah.
Like, what?
One a day.
That's your quota? That's your quota. You hit it. Okay.
One a day keeps the devil away. But yeah, it's, and another aspect I like of that is the fact that he's straight up saying like, "Look, I'm giving you the truth," and I think that's important, is because I don't get the impression that Kvothe is bullshitting here. I think he's telling him like, "Look, I'm giving you the dirty fucking truth of my story." And there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, he's an unreliable narrator." It's like, granted, in story, he's unreliable. But I think the story that Kvothe is telling to Chronicler, I don't think he's lying. I don't think Rothfuss is going to go that route where he's going to pull the rug out from under us and it's like, "Oh, tricked ya. It's all a lie. I was just trying to get Chronicler to write a good story for me." And it's like, no, I don't think that's going to be the case at all.
He shows himself to get embarrassed. He shows himself in humbling situations. He embarrasses himself within his stories. He's not all just like killing it, like people like to say. And I think what happens though also is people have had so much time to speculate that people are just desperate for a new take. And one of the things that they'll say, "Well, he's not a reliable narrator." So that opens it up to anything.
Yeah.
So now you can just be like, "Well, all of this is bullshit, so it could be da-da-da-da-da," and all these other things.
Yeah.
I think, again, it should always come back to, do you like the books? Do you think he's a good writer? You do? Okay, then let's maybe give him some credit that where this is going and what the narrator, what Kvothe is, maybe have that come back to where it's actually good instead of where it would be bad. I mean, I know we talk about that all the time, but I think it's important to emphasize because I think there's just so many people that like to make these comments that are short-sighted, at least the way that I see it, where it's just like, "Well, what about this?" It's like, well, does that make the book better? Or also, does that make Rothfuss look like a hack? Which, again, we talk about all the time, but I feel like it has to be reiterated.
Or make him look like he's trying to do an M. Night Shyamalan when this is a guy that is not like that at all. He does not write that. And I mean, we got two books, novella and another short story. Like, we've got a lot of his writing. We've got over probably, 2,000 pages worth of story from him. He's not a guy that's like dropping these blow your doors off shocking moments. It is things like when you come across the truth, it's all like, "Oh, that's kind of clever how he hid that piece in there." It's not like, "Whoa, that was completely unexpected." He just doesn't do that.
I think people could say that this is about as unexpected as it gets in the live read, is that suddenly he's leaving the university, which you've become so accustomed to, right? That can be surprising, but it's gradual and it makes sense. I mean,
it's not like, the dude's been dead the whole time.
No,
it's not like that kind of shocking.
Everything's accounted for. Yeah. I know. I agree with you, and I think sometimes Shyamalan gets a little bit of a unfair shake in the sense that they're the massive twist. But I know what you mean, and he's not going to take some shortcut twist. I mean, not to say that he couldn't, but it doesn't. It's like
not how he writes. He doesn't write like that.
I was going to say it would be like suddenly he makes this a different genre book. Suddenly he makes a massive move where it's like, so you've been doing something different this entire time that's not even close to what you've been doing so far in these thousands of pages.
Yeah, he's a guy he's been laying breadcrumbs through 2 books. That,
Yeah,
like the breadcrumbs in book 1, a lot of the breadcrumbs in book 1 don't make sense until you read book 2. A lot of the breadcrumbs in book 1 and book 2 won't make sense until you read book 3. But he's laying a trail. He's leading a path.
Well,
he's not just like taking you down one path and he's just gonna fucking pull the rug out from under you, and where you're just like completely didn't see that coming. I don't think that's going to be the case at all.
Well, and it's also the path is not haphazard, right?
No.
I mean, there's obviously a clear plan.
It's meticulously planned, and like,
yeah.
So when you start throwing in things where it's like it requires that Kvothe has been lying the whole time, it's like, no, that is not what he's doing. He is not doing that. He's been laying the groundwork through the whole books. It's not going to be like all the groundwork I laid was bullshit. Tricked you.
Yeah, I mean, what a blow. I mean, how bad would that be?
I would be very, very angry with it because that's not what he's been doing.
Yeah, someone who's been this meticulous leading all the way up is just going to do something that then kind of shatters everything you built thus far. Yeah, you could do that to troll the audience and to shock people, but he cares clearly. He clearly cares about the path that he takes with his story. Everything is meticulously laid out.
Yeah, and what would be
thrown in?
What will be interesting is like the clues that we can't really pinpoint now, that we can't, the clues that we're missing and the clues that we don't have. We know it's a clue, but we just don't know what the next part is. Like, how is he going to connect all these dots is what is interesting. Not how he's going to, make a right turn and throw us completely off and we're going to, everything we thought is wrong. Like, that's not what he's doing. And it would be very disappointing if that's what he did. It would feel cheap.
Yeah, and that's why
I would feel like you wasted my time with, the amount of times I've read these 2 books and tried to figure out what you're doing, and then you were just gonna fucking, make a fucking right turn out of nowhere. Like, no, dude. Like, no, that's not what he's doing. Like, he's made it clear that's not what he's doing. Yeah. That he's connecting dots. He's not gonna just be like, fucking tricked ya, suckers. Well, you read that book 20 times, you fucking idiot.
Well, and that is one of the things that's so frustrating about reading, and I don't read a lot of them, but reading anybody's Reddit post that's like, I know 100% where this is going. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You fucking don't. I mean, we're being fairly confident that he's not going to make a massive twist right turn based on a lot of evidence that doesn't make a lot of sense stylistically and thematically given what he's done so far. We're basing it based off of the reads we've had. And we're giving the guy fucking credit for what he's established thus far. Seems fair enough, right? I mean, I mean, I would want that if I was Rothfuss myself. Give me a little bit of credit for what I've put out thus far, and stop asking. Asking for the book to come out tomorrow. It'll come out when it comes out, man. Enjoy the rereads.
Oh God, yeah. There's a lot of fucking jaded people. Like I saw, I saw someone complaining about like I just finished the book and I just saw that the 3rd book hasn't came out in like 10 years, and and they're complaining about that, and it's like, you just finished the fucking book? Like, dude, I read the 2nd book the day it came out. I finished it the next day. I've literally only 1 day after the 2nd book came out, I have been waiting since 1 day after it came out. And like, you're talking about you just finished the book? Like, get the fuck out of here, man. You don't get to complain yet. Like, get out of here, man. Like, some of you guys, like, I've been waiting a year for this. Like, dude, shut the fuck up.
Well, the funny thing about that is, like, you were talking to me about this for years, and not once was there a complaint.
No, I don't
for you. It was just like, these are fucking great. You need to read these. It was never like, oh, there's a third book and it hasn't been finished. I mean, you probably told me that, but it wasn't in a negative sense.
Here's the thing. If I felt like the third book needed to come out, like if I didn't feel that these books were good on their own and that the third book is absolutely necessary for this story to be good, then I wouldn't recommend them. I would hold off. Yeah. I would hold off and I would wait and I'd be like, well, let me see how he ends his story. And then if that's good, then that means the story's good. And then I'll recommend it. No, these two books, if the third book never came out, if he got hit by a bus and then, and he wrote into his will, nobody can tell the end of the story, I'd be like, well, that's kind of a dick move, but, I'd still read these books. They're fucking great books.
Dude, this is one of the books where, I wasn't big into fantasy at all. Everything I would do, I would be thinking about it, and I'd talk to people about it. I'm just like, dude, these are so fucking great. And then just like recommending them to people I hardly know. And I've kind of learned a lesson in the past because some of the things I've recommended, people have not only disliked what I recommended, they thought I was strange afterwards because I liked it. This is one of those where it's like, if you read this and you don't enjoy it, I don't know what's going on inside of your brain. I don't understand what I mean, everybody has their taste and all, but it has everything.
Yeah.
What is there not to like as far as I'm concerned? I mean, it's got everything, and it doesn't need necessarily a third. I mean, I get a lot of people are like that. They need the end. There a lot of people are like that where it's just like they can't not have the end and it bothers them so much. I would have been happy with Game of Thrones going on forever, personally, and just continuously going and going and going and going. Because I mean, if I like the story and I like the characters, I like how well it's done, I'm cool with it continuously going.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not gonna stop doing everything. I don't necessarily need an end. Like, and like when Rothfuss finishes this book, I obviously I want him to continue to expand this world, tell me more stories in it. Like, so.
What
like,
else
I don't need an end
Dan?
to
what
the
else
history
will you do
of
with your
this
life?
world. Yeah.
What else will you do?
There's so many damn books. There's so many damn books.
That's the funniest thing that I get when someone's like really vehement about how angry they are. It's like, dude, I have like literally in front of me right now, just sitting on the table, I have 8 books. And I'm not reading every single one of them right now, but I'm kind of referencing them. But dude, there's an endless supply that I'll never read that I want to read. And I don't have the time.
Dude, like, I remember being like 5 years old and being like super into fucking Star Wars. Like the new trilogy like didn't come out until I was 19. It's like 14 years later. And there was endless amount of every year there was speculation on because he titled the fucking episodes episode 4, 5, 6. So it's like, well, where's 1, 2, 3, and then 7, 8, 9, and so there was always talk about like, what's the first 3? Is there 9? Is there only 6? There's always speculation, these back and forth. Like, I just grew up with like on one of the most popular fucking series of all fucking time, way bigger than this series. And we didn't know if he was going to make any movies again. And then when he started making them again, we was like, man, this is going to take for fucking ever.
4 and 5. Yeah, that's funny you say that because then it seems like they came out way faster than necessary. At least for me, it feels like
when they released them,
they came out so quick.
Yeah, when they released them and I saw them, it was like, well, you could have took some more time, man. Like, worked on that dialogue. That dialogue is garbage. Like, there's some great shit in Phantom Menace. Like, Darth Maul is one of the all-time baddest characters. Yeah. There's some great fighting scenes and shit like that, and the world
like
and
the race and everything.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, and great games came out of it. But you watch it and you're like, the fucking writing is, whoo, man, it was bad.
Well, the next one, the second one in that series was oof. That was difficult.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job casting fucking Anakin.
Some of my favorite...
Either one, the kid or Hayden Christensen.
My favorite... one of my favorite, like, hangover movies to watch is like 4 and 5, like on cable. It's
4 and 5.
It's still
It's only
still
3 of them.
today. Oh, New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Both of those are just like,
I was when you said like hangover
yeah.
movie, I was thinking The Hangover.
No, like two of my favorite movies, like just literally to watch when I'm like hungover and like I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, 4 and 5 are two of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely on that list, and it's and that's another sort of similarity where we could talk about those series of movies, and there are some that I can't watch again. Like whatever, it can be on, but I will never sit and watch the whole movie again because it's just not good. But it doesn't ruin the series for me. But some people like that, man. They're just like, nope, never again. Fuck that shit. Hate him. Hate all of it. It's just like burn the bridge based off of like one lackluster experience.
I think that's part of the problem with Rothfuss is I think that pressure to conclude the story in like, in as satisfactory a way as these two books are, it's got to be very difficult because you just like box yourself into a corner to where you have to end it. You don't have the room to just tell whatever story you want. You have to end the story, and an end is difficult to fucking stick a landing. So especially like when you compare it against a story that is just opening up and just beginning, like the possibilities are endless in the beginning. So to close the door is much harder than to open it.
I can't imagine the type of pressure that brings. But I would also say, dude, feel free to just open it up, man. Don't end it. I'm fine with that. Just keep it going, bro. Keep spinning it out. Find a way.
Fucking tell whatever, just tell whatever story makes you happy, and we either like it or we don't. Like, it's not going to fucking change the fact that the first two books are dope as fuck.
Yeah, but also if you maintain the type of quality there has been thus far, and you be you and write what you've enjoyed to do thus far, I'll love it.
Yeah, so, definitely don't try to.
I'm endorsing.
Don't try to tell the story you think the fans want. Just tell your story.
Yeah, never do that.
Even if I don't like it, that the worst case scenario is I don't like it, but the first two books are phenomenal. You should read those. And you can read.
You're never going to please everybody anyway.
It's similar to like the Godfather trilogy. Like the fact that the third movie is just kind of like did not change the fact that the first two are fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, absolute classics. I think people that's a really good example, because a lot of people shit on the third so hard that I really thought it was going to be just horrifically bad. It's not. It's not nearly as bad as what everybody made it out to be to me from what I had heard just in the world around me. I just thought it was going to be so bad. It wasn't that bad. It's nowhere close to 1 and 2. It doesn't come anywhere close. But it's like it's from a different series almost. But it ties it all together. It's nowhere close to 1 and 2, but good. Another good example of something that can always be on, and I can always enjoy watching it. I don't care what scene of either of the first two movies.
Yeah.
It's always great.
But so next chapter we got is chapter 48, A Significant Absence. In this chapter, Kvothe will discuss the absence of information regarding the Aemir, and Kvothe postulates that they must be pruning the libraries around the world of any significant mention of them. And so...
Yeah, so we kind of start with a similar tone, right? Like he's kind of... Yeah, he's flush with cash. He's got all this money. He can pay Devi off. He gets a good pull of the emissions lottery. So we're still sort of in that vein, but we know he's going to get chopped off because, again, how the books have gone thus far.
And he just told us that he's going to leave the university. Yeah. And then he's like, best of all, the long hours spent searching for the Graham, getting coked up, had taught him a great deal about the archives. And he's like, I closed the book I'd been poring over, a well-written, comprehensive history of the Aeturan Church. It was as useless as all the rest. Why don't you let it go, Will suggested. You've been beating this Amir thing like a dead horse for, 2 span? Which obviously he's been fucking beating this dead horse for a couple years.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, maybe a year at the university, but few years. This is, this became an important thing since the Changeling killed his parents. Obviously, he didn't think about it in Tarbean, but yeah, this is a monumental thing for him. He's been looking for them for a while.
Yeah, and we're getting deeper into that. He really layers it in where it's the lack of information. Again, the fact that it's actually being pruned. We've spent a while here with this subject and what exactly is happening and why it's happening and who's the source of it. The idea that all they're able to get is second and third hand uncorroborated stories, which should definitely be corroborated.
That's what's interesting, the way he does it, because he's like, they speculate on how the Aemir influenced the decline of the empires. Philosophers talk about the ethical ramifications of their actions. That tells me what people think about the Aemir. It doesn't tell me anything about the Aemir themselves. So it's interesting as you got all the speculation and people talking about the stories, but then you don't have any of the, if you're looking for information on the Aemir from a, the source of I just want to know things about the Aemir, that's fine. You can hear what people think about the Aemir and you find out all that kind of stuff and you just kind of get a glossed overview of it. But if you're like a historian and you're digging for the truth and you're digging for what actually went down so you can offer your own opinion on it, that information is not there. If you wanted to go write your account of the Aemir, you would not be able to do that because none of the details are there. Like all these guys that are giving speculation on the Aemir, there's no source information to go to. They don't have sources like, I got this piece of information from here. Like none of that information exists. So this is all coming, secondhand through stories.
Yeah, it's interesting. It reminds me of like military propaganda or something, where it's like people have this thing that they just parrot. Like Willem gives out some example of like, oh, but everybody knows this. Like we've gotten that a few times from Simon and Will, where it's like, well, everybody knows this is what happened. It's like, all right, then where? Like it almost like reminded me in high school where it's like, oh, we're finally going to deal with World War II or Vietnam War. And then it's like we read the textbook. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like there's no details. Like what the hell, man? We didn't get any of it. No. Now, obviously, could have gone to a library and researched a little bit further and found a bunch of propaganda, and then also dig a little deeper and all that. But it kind of reminds me of that. It gives that feel where it's like, oh, this is, and that's where you get further and further down that line of like, wait, so this is intentional? So
it's a lot like that when you read a textbook and you get the textbook information on it, and then you actually go to actual historians who are writing books on these things, and they're giving much more detailed accounts and you're getting much more background on the individual figures. You're getting information on things they wrote and said, and it's just a much deeper story, and they're bringing in much more context. With this world, you're not getting that. You're getting the dates and, some stories secondhand. Like they did this, they did that, but there's no, where's the source? Where did this come from? You're not getting.
Yeah, it's like little cliff note phrases. It's like you're saying, it's like there's no bibliography page.
It's all like like Kim Jong Un, had 7 holes in one, and on 18 holes of golf, and it's like, yeah, well, okay, where's the video evidence of that? It's like, yeah,
we didn't
shit doesn't exist.
That's not worth showing. I mean, you would think he'd
all right, so you missed the first 3, but after he's hit 3 holes in one, someone's got to be fucking pulling out a camera. This dude's on an all-time run.
They had the cameras out, but he missed the first 3, so they turned them off. He's like, that's it, turn it off, and then he hit them all.
Yeah.
He's like, well, don't turn them back on now. I'm killing it.
Yeah, he hit 3 in a row, and then someone turned on a camera, and then he fucking chunked it, and then he went and broke the camera. Fucking jinx me, man.
Well, I mean, especially the good examples that they use here, especially actual, corrupt judges or actual things that were prosecuted in court in their judicial system, there would be records. There should be records. Why aren't there records? Why isn't, it's like, if you can read some event, why isn't it connected anywhere else?
Yeah.
Aren't you able to see corroborating evidence, like you were saying before? And then that's where it gets extraordinarily suspicious. Okay, well, if you can't, what does that mean?
Yeah, because like Will says, you can't expect all those little details to survive. He's like, I expect some of the little details to survive. You know how obsessive the Talons are about their records, I said? We have 1,000 years of court documents from 100 different cities scrolled away down in sub 2. Whole rooms full. But fine, let's abandon the small details. There are huge questions I can't find any answers for. When was the Order Amir founded? How many Amir were there? Who paid them and how much? Where did that money come from? Where were they trained? How did they come to be part of the Talon Church? Timmy Rice answered that, Willem said. They grew out of the tradition of the Mendicant judges. I picked up a book at random and thumped it onto the table in front of him. Find me one bit of proof to support that theory. Find me one record that shows a Mendicant judge being promoted into the ranks of the Emir. Show me one record of an Emir being employed by a court. Find me one church document that shows an Emir presiding over a case. I crossed my arms in front of my chest belligerently. Go on, I'll wait. And so you get the idea that, like, there's no other way. You can't conclude anything else than someone is pruning this information. Someone is hiding the truth. I mean, that is 100% clear. Maybe Kvothe's wrong. Maybe it's not the Emir doing it. I suspect he's right. I do think that the Emir are hiding it. And I think that, you would think Kvothe would begin to suspect the people running the most prestigious library in the world. You would think he might look at them and be like, are they the ones pruning the libraries? Like, because they would be my prime suspect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I like his deductive reasoning here, where he basically ticks off, all right, so why is this happening? How is it possible? And then he goes off a couple absurd, examples. And then it basically comes down to someone's removed the information, altered it, or destroyed it. And then that's the question, who would do that? And that's what leads them to, well, it seems like the best suspect would be the Emir themselves. And then goes through that reasoning. But yeah, I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, if his main source is the library, it kind of would bring that to task.
Yeah.
Well, then shouldn't it be the library? And you would think...
Yeah, because like if the libraries aren't involved, then it's got to be someone who has access to the libraries. It can't just be that, someone's sneaking into the university and they're stealing books and no one talks about it. No one notices. Like they otherwise, like after 10 books on the Emir disappeared, like they should be posting guards and, locking the fucking libraries down. Like someone's fucking stealing our books, specifically on the Emir. Watch for this. Like we have to guard these books. We're going to put these off in a locked off area. People steal them too much. It's kind of like, with cell phone battery charges. Even if you go into a gas station, a lot of times they have the like battery chargers and shit. They got that locked away. Or going to the Walmart. You can't even fucking, get steel rubbers because they got those fucking blocked off and shit. So yeah, if someone's fucking stealing books in a place that there's not an easy ability to reproduce books, there's not an easy storage facility where there's no way to lose this information could easily be lost. If someone is stealing the books from your library, you're going to get super fucking protective.
Yeah, especially Lauren. Also, though, aren't these great questions for Puppet? Yeah, I mean, this makes me wonder if Rothfuss brought in Puppet and maybe an original manuscript version or something that was in his mind is like, this is where it goes with, questions back and forth with Kvothe and Puppet, because these are great questions for Puppet, it seems to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see it a scenario how Rothfuss could make it make sense that their libraries are being pruned and nobody's taking any precautions.
Yeah, unless, like you said, the people running the library are the ones doing it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And is Kvothe the only one that's made these connections? Because, well, the mayor, we know, kind of went down this path, but Puppet, I mean, like
yeah.
these guys that freaking lives there, he knows where everything is. You think he would know where there is certain information, where there isn't, but also, maybe he's like Kilvin, where he's, Team University and he's all in. He's a company man, so to speak. So maybe he's Maer, who knows? But these seem like really good questions to be bringing up. We have our timeline and all, I get, and he feels comfortable with Willem to be bringing these things up. But yeah, it's pet project to say the least.
Yeah, and then he brings up that he thinks the Amir are older than the Talon Church, which we know that's from the not only Scarpy, but he hears that from the Chandrian straight out of Haliax's mouth. Who keeps you safe from the Amir and the Singers in the Scythe. So he knows that they're related to people that are 5,000 years old. It's much older than the church, but he can't even, like, in this situation where it could be an opportunity to kind of open up and tell Willem what happened in his past and tell him these stories. But he's just not able to tell that aspect of it. So he's got to kind of leave it aside. And like the ancient pottery that he got from that girl with the Siri Day on it and the Chandrian. Like, so he just cannot open up. And so he's trying to convince them with less information than he has. But still, even I would be convinced on the fact that where's all the fucking information and why does this library not have it? At that point, I'm like, yeah, someone's fucking stealing information.
Well, and he uses, great example, which I think hits pretty hard. I found copies of the court documents from the time the Amir were denounced. Do you know how many Amir they put on trial in Tarbeen? Will shrugs. He holds up a single finger. One Amir in all of Tarbeen. And the clerk writing the transcript of the trial made it clear that the man they put on trial was a simpleton who didn't understand what was going on. So yeah, it's convincing, man. Like everyone knows the story of they were disbanded, they were discredited, and all blah blah blah, all of that. And there's one single piece of evidence that he's able to find.
Yeah, and there was at least 3,000 of these guys in the Empire, and they just all fucking hung up their fucking shit on fanatics, and they just hang up their shit and just go become fucking farmers.
Yeah, he puts it great. Where he says 3,000 highly trained, heavily armed, wealthy men and women, absolutely devoted to the greater good. And then one day the church denounces them, disbands their entire order, confiscates their property, and they all just, well, I guess that's it. Like they just change their lives altogether.
Time to open up a bar,
Yeah, that B&B we were talking about. Yeah, let's do that now.
No, hey, look, we've been very fanatical about this for a long time. We deserve a vacation. We deserve a break.
I know this was our life's calling and all, but yeah, let's just relax. Let's just do something else now.
Look, I've always wanted to start my own taco stand, and now I got a chance. I got the excuse. Finally, I could grow my hair out. I've been shaving my head this entire time. Keeping a nice buzz cut. I can finally kind of fucking let loose, party.
Yeah, it seems like this is something that should pretty easily be sellable once you present the evidence. It's pretty convincing. Very suspicious.
Yeah, and I like Will's listens to all that, and he's like, I got one last question. Have you been drinking? No. I slumped in my chair. No. He came to his feet. Then you should start. You've been spending too much time with all these books. You need to wash the dust from your brains. And then Sem, who's completely unaccepting of anything to do with the Fae, is much more accepting of this. And he suggests you should go talk to Lauren about it. He's like, nah, I'm not fucking talking to Lauren about this.
Classic Sem, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, classic Sem. Yeah, go bring it to the guy that would probably be the worst person to bring it to.
I honestly, I mean, like, he's probably the one, like, when he's like, you should bring this to Lauren. It's like, yeah, Lauren should know about this. Like, he should be able to explain why there's no fucking detailed accounts. And if he has no explanation, then he is clearly the prime fucking suspect.
Yes.
That should have been Kvothe's mindset. Because, like, it wouldn't have been like, well, I don't want to tell him that. Like he doesn't fucking know. Like, you figured this shit out, and Lauren doesn't know that all the information about the Amir is missing. Like, get the fuck out of here. Lauren knows, and unless he has a very good explanation for why they don't talk about this shit or protect against this shit, or they're not desperately trying to find information about the Amir because, you know, it's been lost from them. If he doesn't have a great explanation, he's the fucking culprit. He's in on it.
And therein lies the danger, right? I mean, they could go one of two, or it could go a number of ways, but one of two ways I foresee is welcome to the club, or I think we have a place in Haven for you.
Yeah.
And find some justification for it and put him in there.
Yeah. And you know, that should have been why Kvothe was hesitant to talk to him, not because he's going to get all huffy because Kvothe brought him information he hadn't thought of. Get the fuck out of here, man.
It's about what he should know about and care about.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not information that he should, if he's ignorant of this information, that's ridiculous.
It'd be completely absurd. Historically, extraordinarily worthwhile information to know and to have on record. And what is this archives for? Right? And this is something that you should definitely be aware of where it's fallen short. And if you didn't know, you're slacking on your pimping. And if you did know, why do you not give a shit?
Yeah.
Or is that what old boy that respects the Ademaru is out doing? You know, are you going out and looking for this information? You trying to hunt these people down? What's going on here, bro? Let me know. Can I help out? Am I part? Can I be part of the club?
Would not make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for me on that one.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so chapter 49, The Ignorant Edema. In this chapter, Elxadal tells Kvothe a story about the ignorant edema in order to convince him that he should take a term off. But it goes over Kvothe's head, and then it takes Will, Sem, and Minette to convince him to, you know, see the wisdom and to take some time off to let the masters cool down, and after, you know, giving the University a black eye over his trial.
I like this chapter and this and the next one, I think. Makes me like Elxadal a little bit more. He gets to another level in terms of being kind of a cool dude. And shows Kvothe to be a little...
short-sighted?
What's the word there? Short-sighted and also just kind of blind. Kind of pig-headed, maybe is the word, where it's just like not seeing the bigger picture. Not able to see himself in others' eyes, I guess you could say.
Well, and they pointed out, like, you don't want to see any information that you don't want to know. Things you don't want to believe are true. You have a way of burying your head in the sand.
Or he sees things the way that he wants to. Like, everybody knows I got off scot-free. That's what they saw.
Yeah,
they saw I'm innocent.
Yeah,
it's like that's how it works in the real world too. Everybody thinks OJ's innocent.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Yep.
Well, I was found innocent. Everybody believes it.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's a bad example because he is innocent. Yeah. He didn't do it. He was found innocent, so there's no other possible.
I was trying to pick the most recognizable example.
Oh, you picked a bad one. Like, you picked a bad one.
All right. All right.
Like Casey Anthony, that's a good example.
That's a good example?
Yeah.
How about Bill Cosby? Is that a good example?
No, I got off, dude. What are you talking about? Like, you keep talking about these people. Casey Anthony got off, but everybody knows she did it.
All right.
Bring up Bill Cosby and OJ. Like two people that are revered by everybody.
Heroes.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's actually quite surprising when initially like Dahl just like, hey, what's up, man? Like sees him in the square and you're like, wait, what? Like,
yeah,
you just don't expect that too much.
No, because it's not came up where like the masters are, hey, let's go get a fucking bite to eat together, hang out. You want to hang out? Like, what?
You go have lunch? You want to go have some lunch? Yeah.
But yeah, I like the fact where he's like, I should probably forego the drink, and then as soon as the guy comes up, he's like, yeah, hook me up with a drink.
Yeah, you got that wine? You got some good wine? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was pretty funny. They go to the White Hart, which there's a bar out here in Woodland Hills. I used to frequent the White Hart, which made me think of that. But
which sounds like White Heat.
White Heat.
Yeah, you remember that episode? Fucking all the names of the bars were foreshadowing the fire in the fishery. White Hart sounds like White Heat.
Jesus, that's not a stretch.
But yeah, so they start having lunch, and they're fucking talking about. He's like bringing it up. He's like, man, that was a brush with the old days, wasn't it? It's like consultation with demons. Good Lord. And then he's like, have you ever considered, what you're going to do once you get out of here? Like once you get your gilder, I mean? And Kvothe is like kind of like thrown off by this. Like, what are you talking about? Like is this guy trying to, he's and like Elxadal brings up his sympathy and like how well he's doing with sympathy and all that. So he's just like completely thrown off by this conversation. Like, is he trying to say he wants to promote me to a leer, or, is he telling me I should take some time off? Like he's not picking up what Elxadal's putting down at all.
Yeah. It's, again, that kind of shows how, I don't know, pighead is not the right word, just how he does not have perspective towards, which is funny because he was just talking about, he was giving Chronicler perspective. Yeah. He doesn't have perspective yet on how everyone is seeing what the hell just happened. And that's exactly what Elxadal delivers here, where he's saying, like, this hasn't happened in a long fucking time, man. Or maybe Manette actually delivers that. But I did want to mention, I like their toast. I'm gonna find a time to use it, hopefully at like a wedding or something. But I like the toast to not getting burned alive by superstitious folk.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah,
it's a good one. I mean, you could use that anywhere.
Yeah, right? You definitely never want that to happen. So it's always
exactly.
It's a good toast.
Yeah, and say to the bride and groom, you just drop that one. So you guys never getting burned alive by superstitious people who think you're witches.
Congratulations.
But yeah, it kind of puts us on our heels too, where it's like, oh, he brings up Gilder. Well, maybe he is going to promote him, maybe he is going to like take him under his wing. But he's giving him that not so subtle hint, it seems.
Yeah, I like that. And then he's like, let me tell you a little story. A story I like to call the ignorant edema. I looked up at that.
Real quick though, he says he's 17. He lies. Is he 15 here?
Yeah, he's like 15, probably getting close to 16.
Okay, I wasn't sure, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and
it seems like Dahl thinks he's like 20 or something.
Yeah,
because he's like 17. It's so easy to forget that you carry yourself so tall.
Yeah, and then so he tells him, he's got a story of the ignorant edema, and Kvothe's like, I looked up at that, slowly chewing my mouth full of fish. I kept my expression carefully composed. He arched an eyebrow as if waiting to see if I had anything to say. Which I like that. He was just like, Did I goad ya? And then He tells his story, and he's like, once there was a learned arcanist, he knew of all sympathy and sigildry and alchemy. He had 10 dozen names tucked neatly into his head, spoke 8 languages, and had exemplary penmanship. Really, the only thing that kept him from being a master was poor timing and a certain lack of social grace, which is very much like Kvothe as well.
Mm-hmm.
But so this fellow went chasing the wind for a while, hoping to find his fortune out in the wide world. And while he was on the road to Tinue, he came to a lake he needed to cross. Luckily, there was a Dema boatman who offered to ferry him to the other side. The arcanist, seeing the trip would take several hours, tried to start a conversation. He asked him, like, hey, have you read Teckham's theory of energy and as an elemental substance rather than material property? And never thought on it at all. And what's more, he had no plans to. Surely your education included Teckham's theophany, the arcanist asked. And the guy is just like, no, man, no, I have not read these books, and I have no interest in these books. Like, get out of my face with this stupid shit. And this guy the arcanist is just a complete ass about it. And he's like, well, you cannot just be foregoing your education like this, man. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, don't you have any, he's basically just like, don't you have any self-respect? And
Jeez, yeah.
He's just like laying it on so thick where it's like, ooh, man, this dude sounds like a big old douchebag.
Dude, like literally, it is every man's job to improve himself. A man without the benefits of education is hardly more than an animal. It's like, dude, like if I was in the guy's position, I'd be like, well, I'm about to chop your fucking head off. We'll see what type of animal I am.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Fucking asshole. Like, it's a pretty big insult.
Yeah, no shit. And he's like, well, as you can guess, the conversation didn't go very far after that. And it's like the Edema took a hard look at the clouds and said, it'll be true bad in 5 minutes, then some at worse before it clears. This boat of mine won't hold together through it all. We're going to have to swim the last little bit. And with this, the ferryman takes off his shirt and begins to tie it around his waist. But I don't know how to swim, says the arcanist. Oh, you didn't learn how to swim, did you?
Got him.
Yeah.
Got him.
And Kvothe doesn't get the point of the story at all. Like,
it just completely passes over. It's
like,
just like he's talking to a load and he's not, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like,
okay, decent story. Your accent was a little over the top. Like, he's critiquing his performance. He's not listening to the content at all.
Yeah. And so I love the fact that, when he goes and tells Manette and Will and Sim about it, he's like, Manette's like, he's giving you a hint, Thickwit, Manette said irritably. The cards have been against us all night and we were 5 hands behind, but you just refuse to hear it. He's telling you what I've told you twice already. You're a king-high idiot if you go through admissions this term. What? I asked. Why? Manette set his cards down with profound calm. Kvothe, you're a clever boy, but you have a world of trouble listening to things you don't want to hear. He looked to the left and then right at Willem and Simon. Can you try telling him? Take a term off, Willem said without looking up from his cards, then added, Thickwit.
Dude, I mean,
interaction.
It's so funny because, like, Manette's like, I've been telling you for a while, twice already. And Kvothe's like, what? Why? Like he hasn't heard
I've been telling you, man.
Yeah. He hasn't heard this. Like, this is all new. This is all new to me. What are you guys talking about? The fuck?
Yeah.
The Thickwit is very fitting in this context, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's mind-blowing that they have to explain it to him, where they're like, you really have to. Everyone's still talking about the trial. It's all anyone's talking about. The trial, I laughed. That was more than a span ago. That was like 12 days ago, man. Get over it.
Yeah, well, and they do go as far as explaining it, but it's, dude, these people are fucking petrified. You knew this ahead of time. Everybody not at the university is petrified of people in magic, and now they think you can fucking kill somebody with the wind.
They whipped you for giving him a hot foot. They whipped you for that. They whipped you for calling the name of the wind. What do you think they're fucking willing to do for someone who gets the attention of the Iron Law, who has a history of burning to death people like them?
Yeah, he's not seen it.
No. They clearly take this shit very seriously. You got a bunch of scars on your back to see how seriously they take this shit.
Yeah, that's interesting when you put it that way too, because it's almost like Tarbeen got him to a point where it's like, well, he's willing to suffer. Yeah, and he'll suffer gladly when he needs to, and it's almost like he just compartmentalizes it and forgets it.
Yeah, and he's not examining why they're beating him, why they're whipping him, and there's a massive point behind it. And so, like, yeah, if you get they want to make sure that it's clear for everybody, don't fucking do shit that will get us in trouble.
I love the way Manette puts it. I think it's perfect, where it says, it would have been better if you'd been found guilty in a quiet way rather than be innocent so loud.
Yeah.
And then it goes as far as, do you know how long it's been since an Arcanist was brought up on charges of concertation? No, neither do I, which means it's been a long, long while. You're innocent, lovely for you, but the trial has given the university a great shining black eye. It's reminded folk that while you might not deserve burning, some Arcanists might. You can be certain the masters are uniformly wet cat mad about it, or about that. Yeah, and he's still just, it isn't my fault there was a trial.
Yeah, even Will's like, some students aren't too pleased either, Will added darkly. Yeah, it's not my fault. Ambrose did it. And then Will's like, even so, Ambrose is sensible enough to avoid admissions this term. What? I asked, surprised. He's not going through admission? He is not. He left for home 2 days ago. But there was nothing to connect him to the trial. Why would he leave? And it's like, dude, it's obvious. That Ambrose set you up. They're not fucking stupid. They know it was Ambrose too. They know that Ambrose and you have been fucking sniping at each other. And then he brings up like, oh yeah, and by the way, what the hell were you doing in that, that fucking tavern?
The Golden Pony.
The Golden Pony show. Like, why were you seeing a Golden Pony show when fucking Ambrose's room's caught on fire?
I was just playing cards, just hanging out.
Of course you were. Yes, of course.
You all think we're fucking stupid. Yeah. Like, look, we get it. We don't have evidence.
It doesn't matter, bro. He's like, I got plausible deniability. And it's like, yeah, you do. So they can't pin it on you. But they'll stick it to you in another way. Everybody knows what the hell happened, man. It's like, you can dance around your, technicalities. But, when it comes down to it, they might not, punish you specifically for it, but they will punish you in a indirect way. And it would be through, raising his tuition to an astronomical price. Whereas, like, to the point where Will's like, dude, I will wager 1 gold mark that your tuition will be no less than 35 talents. And neither one are willing to take the bet.
Yeah, and I like one of the things that Sim brings up is that Kvothe is starting to get a reputation, where he says, rumor has gotten around you were having lunch with Sleet. And Fella told me she heard you were courting Devi. So what's happening here is Kvothe's becoming the bad boy.
Yeah.
And it seems like maybe Fella likes the bad boy.
Yeah. And he's got his Yankees fucking jacket.
His FiberCon in the front seat. Well, so there's a part here that I think is worth visiting where, and I know you'll love this, she was half an inch away from wanting to eat my liver for a while there. Kvothe talking about Devi. So there's
there's an Armenian fucking
that's
idiom.
Right. There's an Armenian idiom, Jiger Dudem, which is a very good way, if you're, in the area of Armenian women, that's a good one-liner to come in with and say it to an Armenian woman. Just say Jiger Dudem, and she will be laughing and smiling and ready to start talking with you. And it means, I like you so much I'd eat your liver. So the way Armenians look at it is eat my liver is not a bad thing. It's a positive thing. I want.
What about like I would rip your heart out and feed it to my dog? That's how much I like you.
It sounds. I mean, you're gonna have to. It's gonna be difficult to sell that. I think.
I love my dog, and I think your heart. It's a good. It's a high protein meat. Like it's an organ. I think organ meat is good. So it's healthy for a dog. I love my dog, and I love you so much that I think you would be good around my dog. That's the metaphor that I'm going for.
I wouldn't open with "I love you so much." That's in the first meet. That's a little bit heavy. But if it works for you,
agree to disagree.
Okay. Well, if you polled women out there and you asked them if on the first meeting the guy said "I loved you,"
I love you so much, I would rip your heart out of your chest and I would feed it to my dog. That's how much I love you.
Okay. But for real though, for everybody out there that's trying.
Oh, by the way, my name is Dan.
Jesus. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Start with the heart, ripping it out of your chest. All the graphic imagery. That's that's really gonna paint that picture.
It's a good conversation starter. It's a good conversation starter.
Yeah. So we skipped over a couple things that I definitely wanted to visit. I wanted to make sure I mentioned. One that kind of cracks me up was Dahl talks about, it's going to get easier as you get older, when he's opening up the conversation. And he's like, where was that? Where he basically says, he's talking about how young he is versus how old he sort of looks. And he's like, oh man, I was a mess at 17. My studies, trying to sort out my place in the world, women. And then he shakes his head slowly. It gets better, Give it 3 or 4 years and everything settles down a bit. It just kind of reminds me of like that old line. I think it's a Jerry Seinfeld joke where he's like, what do rocket scientists say when they're like, because other people are like, hey, it's no rocket science. Are they like, hey, it's not like we're talking to women,
Yeah,
it's not like we're trying to talk to women. But if they're in the right area and they have the Jaguar Dudem line to open it up with, they might do okay after that. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, this is obviously a different world, but things did not slow down for me in my early 20s. They kind of fucking sped the fuck up and got a little buck wild.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think to the respect of what he's talking about, you get a little bit more control over your own anxieties and things. But you get pretty buck wild in terms of... you do everything to an extreme. At least I did.
Yeah.
It was no longer experimenting with
alcohol. I wasn't like settling. I wasn't like settling into my life and, starting to fucking set my roots and it start growing. It was like, nah, I'm taking it to a whole nother fucking speed. Put the pedal to the metal here for a few years.
Well, yeah, I kind of did what Dahl says, and I think the next chapter where he's like, take risks, man. Nobody's going to know. Your reputation's not going to follow. Go out there, take some risks, do some crazy shit. That's kind of what I was doing at that time. There was another thing that he brought up that I thought was pretty good where he said something about how... Oh, there it is. It's not good to see... So he talks about, you might want to consider taking a term off, relax for a bit, travel a little, get some sun, takes a drink. It's not good to see one of the Edema Ru without a tan. So it feels like to me that Dahl's like really into like, the Jersey Shore guys.
Yeah.
That's what he looks for the youth to look like.
Yeah, well, it's because he looks like like Jafar from Aladdin. And so he's always like, man, I just wish I could, get short, spiky hair, frosted tips, fucking real good tan. He's like, I've set this look, and now everybody thinks I'm the evil magician, and now I just pigeonhole myself into this look. And he really wishes he could change his look, but he's locked himself in.
He wishes he could walk around in wife beaters with, like you said, frosted tips, a lot of gel, and some fake tan, and That's what he wishes for Kvothe. If he could live his life over again, that's what he'd be doing. He'd be looking like Pauly D or somebody. Or the other way to look at it is maybe he's slanderizing redheads, right? There's a lot of subtext here. Maybe he's talking some shit.
Well, that makes me
go out, get
Elxidal a lot. And I think that's headcanon that Elxidal was throwing shade at him. It's like, look, it's kind of gross to see an Ademaru without a tan, like this pale, pasty, redheaded, soulless vampire. Can't go out in the sun.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps that's where he was going with it. I think he likes tan boys.
If redheads didn't want me to talk shit about them, they wouldn't be redheads. That's just, that's facts.
Oh, that is interesting. But yeah, so I'm glad we went back to revisit those couple parts. I mean, again, I do, like you said, I do like Elxidal in the chapter. And, this is like some hard truths for Kvothe, but also it's interesting him being so thick-headed with these sorts of things, yet so observational, I don't know what the word would be, so observant with others, right? He seems to be able to pick up on things, although in a lot of circumstances he has trouble putting himself in other people's shoes, but he picks up on visual cues for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting sort of reveal of Kvothe in terms of how he's sort of setting his way on a trajectory with. I mean, thank God he's got help here, because he would have gone to admissions not like just whistling like, oh, I'm all good, everybody loves me, like not realizing like, dude, you're about to like step into some shit here.
Yeah, but then we get into chapter 50, Chasing the Wind. So, he had previously, he accepted their word and decided to take a term off. And then chapter 50, Chasing the Wind. In this chapter, Kvothe says, talks to Threp, finds out that he might have a potential chance at a patron with the Maer. Then he goes and he says his goodbyes to his friends, Auri and the Masters, and he has a discussion with Elodin about chasing the name of the wind. And then he visits Devi in order to get more time on his loan. So he starts off, he gives his tile to Fella. And so he's telling her that, he wishes her luck, and then, that's it. The winter term came to an end, and he's got nothing to do. So he's, putzes around town, goes, has the winter pageantry for a bit to enjoy his time. But then once he hangs out with his friends a little bit, but then once they go back to school and they get back into their routine, he's just like, what the fuck am I doing? I got nothing. And Denna's not in town. He searches for her, but he never finds her. So he, spends some time with Diok and Stanchion, but he's really got nothing to do. And no need to save for money or anything.
That's kind of interesting because the previous chapter ends that way. Like, well, he's got nothing to do. I mean, he is a musician. He could be writing songs. He could take this time to write songs. I mean, I know he said it would be a waste. I thought it was kind of weird that he said it would be a waste to even try to make anything in the fishery. I know he has to do a penance there, right? He's not allowed
to use their equipment.
All right, so basically he could do things.
He can't use the archives. Can't go into the fishery and use their equipment. So yeah, he's pretty much locked out of the university. So he's got nothing other than his music. I mean, he's still playing with anchors and shit. But yeah, so he could have focused in on his music, but it really, he didn't have a whole. I'm sure something along those lines probably would have came up, that he would have started boring down on his music and trying to, fill out his pockets with that kind of shit. But it didn't come up because he runs into Threp.
It seems like with his job, in terms of how he's using his music at anchors. He seems to have, taken, basically put it behind him where he's not creating.
No,
through
it's
his
just
music
room
anymore.
and board and a
Someone else is
little bit
part
of
it.
pocket change for him.
Well, no, what I'm saying is it doesn't seem like that's in his mind. He doesn't think about writing songs these days. We're not hearing about it. He's not creating through his music. But yeah, Threp's super great in terms of what he brings to him, and enthusiastic as shit as always, but especially here, he's all jacked up about the opportunity. It couldn't be more perfectly timed.
Yeah, and so he lets him know that since he couldn't find him a local patron, he's been looking out in a wider range to find someone else. And he's like, "Have you ever been to Ventus?" And possibly, I said. Then seeing his puzzled look, I explained, "I traveled quite a bit when I was young. I can't remember if I ever made it that far east." He nodded. "Do you know who the Maer Alvaron is?" "I seem to remember something," I said vaguely. Threp grinned. "You know the expression, 'rich is the king of Vent'?" I nodded. "Well, that's him. His great-great-grandfathers were the kings of Vent, back before the Empire stomped in, converting everyone to the Iron Law and the Book of the Path. If not for a few quirks of fate a dozen generations back, Alvaron would be the royal family of Ventus, not the Calanthus, and my friend, the Maer, would be the king." So, obviously, we've talked about that in a previous chapter when we talked about, in our bonus episode, when we talked about King Calanthus, but that, obviously, the Calanthus and the Alvaron go very fucking far back, and when the Empire came stomping in, it seems like, the Alvarons conceded to the Calanthus and to become part of their kingdom in order to kind of fend off being swept up by the Empire, is what it seems like on paper.
It seems like he does make the point that while doing that, he's still Alvaron still held on to certain, like he can tax, he can do.
Yeah, he basically has all the powers of a king except for the title.
Which
yeah,
is
and he pays fealty to the king, so a part of his taxes go to the king, but he still has all the powers of a king. So he's a big deal. He's a big deal.
Yeah.
He's got many leather-bound books. Room smells of rich mahogany.
To go from, someone like Threp as being like a dream patron to someone like Alvaron as a prospect of a patron, that's fucking huge. So this is like, a big, it's a huge boon for him.
And it's perfect for Kvothe, because Kvothe was thinking about, like, man, maybe I can go to Rainier and check out their libraries, but I got no connection, so why would they let me in? And now, like, hey, here's the guy just below the king in Rainier, and so you can go become here's an opportunity to become his patron. So he jumps at that chance. And, they end up writing a letter together, but Kvothe jumps at the opportunity to, to get on that Maer Alvaron train.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly timed. It fits in with what he needs, how he could advance himself, at least in prospect wise on paper. I like Threp's approach as well, where he's like, all right, well, I'm ready to go tomorrow. And he's like, well, let me get a letter of recommendation, basically, put together for you. He's like, how long does that take? And he's like, I like that the way that Threp talks about it is, I write slowly, especially when I'm sending a letter to someone as important as the Maer. Plus, I have to describe you, no easy task. I just like the impression that's given is that he takes his time, does it like the right way, and how it should be done. And I don't know.
And this is a powerful connection for Threp. This is not something to be frivolous about. Like, this is a guy that is way above him. And it's one of the most powerful people on the fucking planet. And so you're not going to be frivolous with that.
Yeah, and he even sort of gets deeper into that when he says, my friend, the Maer. Kvothe says, your friend? You know Maer Alvaron? And he's like, friend may be stretching it a little. We've been corresponding for some years, exchanging news from our different corners of the world doing each other a favor or two. It would be more appropriate to say we're acquainted. But he's enough of acquaintance that he sends, Threp a letter where it's like, I trust you're able to find somebody for my needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Alvaron is utilizing him as his man in that area, basically.
What's so great too is, man, Kvothe fucking kills it. I mean, there's complications and all, but he kills it. I mean, he's perfect for the role.
Yeah.
I need a musician who can write. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It fits in perfectly. It's great.
And I like the fact, he goes and gives his hasty goodbyes because he's like, all right, yeah, I'm ready. I can fucking leave tomorrow. Let's do this. And so he goes and says his goodbyes and gets, good heartfelt handshake from Willem and Sim and Willem and Simon, and a cheerful wave from Auri. Kelvin grunted without looking up from his engraving and told me to write down any ideas I might have for the ever-burning lamp while I was away. Obviously, one of the things about that is when you're doing downward dog, you got to finish that pose. And so even you're writing your engraving, you're doing downward dog, you just don't have time to, I pop up and give a good hug. If he waited, he would have got a good hug from Kelvin, but he bothered him at the wrong time.
I wonder if the saxophone would still cue anyway, just because they're together, if it's still,
Well, what it would do is like Kelvin is like keeping his head down, keeping on a strong face. But then when Kvothe walks out of the room, and it's like, and a tear strolls down his eye.
As he goes to upward facing dog.
Yeah.
As he shifts positions.
Yeah, he rolls his body up. He's like doing like one of those push-up moves.
It's tears off both sides of his face.
He mouths, I'll miss you.
Oh man, this relationship is so great.
Yeah. A lot underneath that people are missing, but we're really filling in the blanks.
Yeah, the subtext is thick in this in their relationship.
Then he has no luck finding a Loden and settled for sliding a note under his door. And then as I loaded my pack, I slowly realized I couldn't take everything with me. That came as something of a shock. For so many years, I'd been able to carry everything I've owned, usually with a hand to spare. So it's funny, like he's built up a life there, and he's starting to stack up possessions and build up, and now he's kind of leaving it behind, but he's got enough stuff now where he can't just carry everything on his back. And I like the aspect of like he goes through the list of the different things that he's going to bring with him, and he loses all of it. Like I brought this and this and this and this and this, and it's all fucking gone before he ever gets there.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I wondered if there was something too, and probably not, but I thought it was kind of an interesting mention. A small wooden box with the handful of small treasures Auri had given me. I just wonder what's in there,
Sounds like he lost it though.
No, he didn't take that. I think. Oh, didn't he leave that?
Oh, that's probably the gifts that's probably the gifts that she's been giving him, like the key and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
He probably just keeps it all together.
Yeah. And so he works out a deal with anchors to keep his room open, which sounds like no one's been using it anyways. And so that wasn't a big deal. And then when he's walking to leave town and he's crossing the bridge, he runs into a Loden who's there, more than likely waiting for him. He's like, "Hello, Kvothe," he said without turning his eyes from the churning water. "Hello, Master Loden," I said. "I'm afraid I'm going to be leaving the university for a term or two. Are you really afraid?" I noticed a whisper of amusement in his quiet, resonant voice. Yeah, it's perfect to Loden. "It's just a figure of speech. The figures of our speaking are like pictures of names, vague, weak names, but names nonetheless. Be mindful of them." He looked up at me. "Sit with me for a moment." And I like when he's like, "I'd rather not, Master Loden." He gave me a reproachful look. "Caution suits an arcanist. Assurance suits a namer. Fear does not suit either. It does not suit you. He slapped the stone again, more firmly this time. He's like, sit the fuck down, dude. Don't be a little bitch.
I like, yeah, the teaching moment here is pretty great when he's basically having him. No, he's basically trying to have him look for the wind, and Kvothe's not really into it, but he does still sort of quiz him on, this is a good place for a namer. Tell me why, and gives him the answer of wide wind, strong water, old stone. Good answer. But there's another reason. Stone, water, and wind are other places too. What makes this different? I don't know. Another good answer. Remember it. He's always sort of bringing that out. Like, I don't know, man. I think all of it speaks to that sleeping mind, that letting go sort of ness that he encourages with him. But then when
I waited for him to continue. When he did, and I asked, what makes this a good place? He looked out over the water for a long time before he answered. It is an edge, he said at last. It is a high place with a chance of falling. Things are more easily seen from edges. Danger rouses the sleeping mind. It makes some things clear. Seeing things is a part of being a namer. What about falling? I asked. If you fall, you fall, Loden shrugged. Sometimes falling teaches us things too. In dreams, you often fall before you wake. Which I like the edge part, because obviously when he's in the woods with Martin and them, Martin tells him, he's like, look, this is an edge. Like all this shit. They got all this map and they're like the Eld, but no one's really mapped the Eld. They just like, here's a big fucking area which we just call the Eld, but no one's mapped this shit. No one's walked these lands. It's like someone kills you here, your body will never be discovered. No one will ever cross its path, So like these areas we're walking on, someone might not have walked over this patch of grass in 1,000 years. He's like, so this is an edge, and
I was just going to say, and also danger rouses the sleeping mind. It makes some things clear. Makes me think of when he's with Florian. It makes me think of the Edem tree.
Yeah, and right? And when Ambrose like pisses him off, or when a Loden smacks fella upside the head, it's like those. But especially those high emotions, the high emotional state, and anger and fear, or those kind of things. Like it seems like high emotions help bring out the sleeping mind, at least in the beginning.
And especially the danger making some things clear, because he gets clarity with Florian.
Yeah.
And it's because of the danger of no one makes it out of here alive.
Yeah.
And then with the Edem tree, seeing the cuts and knowing that everybody's watching me, and what choice do I make? And then everything slows down and everything becomes clear given the danger.
Yeah, and I like the part too where he's like, do you know what they used to say when a student left the university for a term? They said he was chasing the wind. I've heard the expression. Have you? What did it seem to mean? I took a moment to choose my words. It had a frivolous flavor, as if the students were running around to no good purpose. Loden nodded. Most students leave for frivolous reasons or to pursue frivolous things. He leaned forward to look straight down at the river below. But that was not always the meaning of it. No? No. He sat back up again. Long ago, when all students aspired to be namers, things were different. He licked a finger and held it to the air. The name most fledgling namers were encouraged to find was that of the wind. After they found that name, their sleeping minds were roused, and finding other names was easier. But some students had trouble finding the name of the wind. There were too few edges here, too little risk. So they would go off into the wild, uneducated lands. They would seek their fortunes, have adventures, hunt for secrets and treasure. He looked up at me, but they were really looking for the name of the wind. He's basically just, before he sends him out here, he's like, look, you're going into the fucking wild world out here, and you're going to experience life. It's like, use this as an opportunity. Use it to find the name of the wind. This is your opportunity. This is your chance.
And it also speaks to, he's got a bit of a head start. Because he's already seen the name of the wind.
Yeah.
Multiple times. So he's already on that path. He's got a head start. He's in a good position to begin with. I wondered, especially when I was reading this part, if it was tempting to Rothfuss to end a book here. because of the cliffhanger that it is, right? I mean, we got a lot of content. We're like 400 pages in. That's a book. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if he was tempted to basically like end the next, because it's such a sort of dramatic split from what he's done thus far to where he's about to be going.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think
So.
I think he had it mapped out that because he ends the first book saying that he's going to meet Florian and the Maer and all these kind of things. So really can't end the second book there after the first book ends, says what the second book's going to be about. But you also get a little thing here, which is a little implication, and it's not explained because we don't see what happens on the trip, but there was a man with dark hair and a pinched face. He watched us from the corner of his eyes without turning his head. As he walked behind us, I tried not to think how easy it would be for him to push me off the bridge. And then this guy also gets on the fucking boat. He's the last one to get on. And then that boat gets attacked. And I would be shocked if that guy's not a hired assassin or he's not involved in a plot to get Kvothe killed.
That very unlikable woman with Elias had a pinched face.
Yeah.
So apparently pinched face people are some shady.
Yeah, it's her brother. It's her brother. And
Kvothe,
that's actually, that's, at the end of the third book, he can't save Dinah. He decides he can't save Dinah, but he's going to save Elias, and he's going to take out that pinch face bitch whose brother tried to kill him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting twist there.
So it's a tragedy, but it's also got a happy ending for Elias. Yeah, for Elias. He's not going to get him pecked to death. But, and then so Elodin, tells him go chase the wind. Do not be afraid of the occasional risk in moderation. And so he goes and then after that, Elodin tells him spit for luck. That is the same thing Willem had said to him the first time they crossed the bridge to go the Aeolian.
And he grins like a schoolboy when he does it.
Yeah.
So he knows that he's fucking with him. He's finally delivering on the joke he's been holding back, or however you want to put that. Yeah,
the cards in that they're too pronounced in the writing for them to be nothing. I mean, I think it's got to be something there.
Yeah, and absolutely, man.
But then Kvothe goes and sees Devi, and I love their relationship. I mean, she's so great with her, like, oh, look, it's my secret admirer. Because he'd been throwing notes under there, panicking, like that she's, that he can't find her, and she just went on a little vacation. And there's one aspect, though, that I want to bring up is, I probably brought it up before, but he's like, I sniffed. What is that? I asked. Her expression went rueful. It was supposed to be pear. I don't know if there's anything there. It seems like it might be because of pears are out of season. Now it's even colder. It's winter. And Dinah, when she was reading her letter and he came across her and found her crying when she gave him his loot case back, she was eating a pear. And so now Devi's got a room that's supposed to smell like pear. So it's like, was Devi involved in Dinah going to Yill? Like, did she help out in that? And I don't know if there's anything there, but it seems like there might be something there, and I'm curious about when book 3 comes out. I don't think there's any way to figure it out, but when book 3 comes back, I'm curious if there's got to be something to do with the pear. Why mention it?
I kind of thought, for whatever reason, what jumped to my mind was I thought about Auri and her novella, and I just thought, is Devi a shaper? Because it's supposed to be a pear. It's supposed to be pear. It's almost like she tried to concoct something.
Yeah, she's an alchemist at least. Yeah.
But that's kind of what I was getting at, I guess.
Yeah. But I think there might be something there. It's impossible to know, but I would be surprised if there's not something to do with the fucking pears. Like, why keep bringing them up? Reminds me of like in A Clash of Kings when Renly offers him a peach, and then Stannis, the rest of the fucking book's like, where the fuck did he offer me that peach? Like, it's like, what did that fucking mean, man? It's like fucking tormented by it. It's like, I don't fucking get it, dude. But yeah,
what's he trying to say?
Yeah,
that's funny.
but yeah, then he sees. I like to he. It's like, despite my best intentions, my eyes were drawn to the charred black ring. Debbie tossed her strawberry blonde hair and met my eyes. Care for a rematch? She asked, her mouth curving. I can still take you, Graham or no Graham. I can take you while I'm dead asleep. I'll admit to being curious, I said, but I should tend to business instead. Very well, she said. Are you really going to pay me off entire? Have you finally found yourself a patron? Shook my head. However, if I had a remarkable opportunity arise, the chance to find a patron indeed, I paused. Inventus. And so they get into a bit of haggling, because he's like, this is all the money I have in the world. With it, I need to get myself to Severen with fair speed, 1,000 miles with some to spare. That means passage on at least one ship, food, lodging, money for coaches, or the use of a post note. When I finally arrive, I will need to buy myself clothes that will allow me among the court without looking the ragged musician I am. I slid more coins. This does not leave me enough to settle my debt with you. And she's like, I see. We must discover some alternative method for you to square your debt. My thought is I can leave you with collateral against my eventual return. And so he gives her rhetoric and logic, his sympathy lamp, and Denna's ring.
Yeah, very reluctantly, which is, this is where Debbie wins. She wins in her negotiations pretty much always, right?
Yeah.
She's a very close trader, as they say.
Yeah, he was hoping he would just be able to do it with the book and the lamp, but she's like, look, the book's only valuable to you, and the lamp's only valuable to Kelvin. This ain't a good deal. Let me see that fucking ring. And he ends up giving it to her, but he makes the, agreement that she won't wear it. And so they come to an agreement that in a year, he has to come back and pay her within a year and a day, or, all that shit's hers. And then she's like, you can tell me how to get in the archives.
I was going to say, she does put out that she's still all about them archives.
But yeah, so he gets to agreement with her, and then in chapter 51, all wise men fear. Short chapter. In this one, Threp gives him some last pieces of advice and tells him what all wise men fear before sending him off to meet the Maer. And so
I love this piece. This goes right back to what we've seen before. He's telling him, like, the Mayor's old blood, like basically telling him, like, treat him with respect. And Kvothe's like, I rolled my eyes. Why did everyone always expect me to behave so poorly? It's like, dude, because you have a reputation.
Yeah.
Remember Ambrose, right?
You're
Remember
a hothead, man. Like, what are you talking about? You wrote Jackass. You're sitting there and telling in front of people. You're accusing him of having like chlamydia. Like, so yeah, you're a bit of a hothead, and you just fucking run off at the mouth.
My actual note was, because you have a reputation, jackass.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Like, you remember, right? Like, jeez, man.
Yeah. But
it's so funny. He's so disconnected from what he's wanted to create and then the ramifications of what that is. He just has, goggles on for himself, basically.
Yeah, and he's like, so he gives Threp gives him a note to give to the Mayor, like as his introduction, and he puts it in a little secret pouch. And he's like, there's nothing special about the dried apple, but in my opinion, if you have a secret compartment in your loot case and you don't use it to hide things, there's something terribly, terribly wrong with you. So yeah, dude, yeah, we get it. You're super into secret pockets.
Well, first of all, the horn with the parchment is in there. He has something very secretive in that little compartment.
Yeah.
He has dried apples in every fucking pocket of his fucking cloak. Dude,
His
his
dude's
true
wearing
love
cargo
is not
pants, and he's got like fucking change in every single pocket.
No, but dude, every time the dried apple is his true love. It's not Denna.
Yeah.
What I'm starting to find out is dried
It's
apple is
fucking
freaking
all
everywhere,
about dried
dude.
apple, man. It's fucking delicious dried apples.
He always has it in some pocket, and now he even has it in this secret little compartment that Denna so thoughtfully put into the thing.
One of the few things he doesn't lose. He does not lose his loot
Yeah,
case,
yeah.
so he probably nibbled on that fucking dried apple to stay alive.
Yeah, as I'm hating on it, yeah, it probably kept him alive in Junpui. But what's so funny about it to me is like he's like, well, you got to use it. If you don't use it, it's like you were using it. You didn't need the apple in there. You have cloak pockets for that. Like, you know, he already had the horn with something like extraordinarily valuable, you know, to people and running around in his world, which I guess there's not many of them, but yeah, that cracked me up. That was funny.
Yeah, and it ends with you get the pinch-faced man who passed by them on the bridge. He comes running up onto the ship. He was the last man on. And then Threp gives him the wise man fear line. He's like, remember, there are 3 things all wise men fear: the sea in a storm, a night with no moon, and the anger of a gentle man.
So, who's that gentle man?
Well, the Maer, for one, or Stape. Wouldn't want to piss off Stape, but like when the Maer is like real nice with him and everything, and then like as soon as he kind of steps off and the Maer, that temper flares, like then he's like, oh shit, I fucked up.
Dude, yeah, Stape is great. The back and forth where you're about to make a very dangerous enemy in this world.
Yeah.
And then he comes out with a lifelong ally.
Yeah.
That forever will be, it's like the freaking Count of Monte Cristo's, you know, guy that basically dedicates the rest of his entire existence to him. Is basically where that goes. It's tremendous. The twists and turns and ups and downs when he's with the Maer are great.
Yeah, I love his interactions with the Maer because you really get that feel of like he thinks he thinks, you know, he's playing the game and, you know, having good backs and forth, but like he starts to cross a line, he has a little slip up, and like you quickly get that from the Maer, like, you know, no, no crossing this line at all. Like this is a death line. It's not just we don't just have like minor beef. Like this is major fucking beef crossing lines with me. Like especially when he gets impatient and he comes storming up to the Maer, and then he fucking sees the look on the Mayor's face when the Mayor really snaps, and he's like, "Ooh, shit! This is a man who could throw me in a cage to be eaten by crows, and no one would think anything of it."
Yeah, well, yeah, and every time there is that testing of the line, he basically is back in his room for a week and being punished and won't hear from the Mayor. Like the politics involved are really interesting in that respect, and it's interesting because you get to this position you want to be in, and then this is where Kvothe gets to feel what Denna felt with the Brickshaw, you know, Long Dickerson, where she's basically you're held hostage because you have to be here now, and you don't get to go anywhere. And this
is a guy. I mean, this is not like an Ambrose. Like this is like Ambrose you can fuck with, and he might try to get revenge and shit. Like the Mayor doesn't need to be secret about anything. Yeah, like he could just fucking pull out a fucking sword and chop your head off, and fucking that's fine. There's nothing anyone's gonna do about it. Like so, it's a whole another level of like you better be fucking careful with this guy.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And so that's the politics of it. That's where he has to be super careful of the way he says things, the way he approaches them, how he helps them. Also has to offer him value without giving him too much. You know, he has to sort of piecemeal him. So they both have to like play each other. It's interesting. But, you know, and I was going to say, Threp does a tremendous job of, you know, giving him advice, and even just little things like no gambling. Like the way that the mayor looks at that with, people at the court, they do it. He frowns upon it. So be aware of it. You don't want to, make a bad impression, out the gate. But then also, like, sort of subtly says, watch your ass. And which I thought was interesting because the way he delivered it sort of made it like, look, you're still my boy here. Like, I want you to succeed. Watch your ass around them because, how does he say it? Small thaws make great floods, so be twice wary of a slowly changing season. So basically, if things start changing, get the fuck out of there if you can. I don't know, that's what it kind of read to me.
Yeah, he's basically, mind your P's and Q's, be careful. Saying this isn't the place to fuck around. And Kvothe finds that out. But yeah, so next week he will arrive at the mayor's place and we'll probably meet Braden as well. So we're going to fucking get a whole different dynamic for the next aspect of the book. Total change of scenery and change of dynamics, change of characters. Like it's a different book.
Yeah, it gets pretty real. And then we eventually get Denna coming back at some point where I felt like it was almost like, oh, you almost forget, and then boom, there she is, and it's like perfect timing as well, because he's in the middle of writing his songs, and
yeah, you don't expect to run into her.
Romantic.
You don't expect to run into her because like she's gone, and from Imre when he leaves, and she's in Yale, and then boom, shows up there out of nowhere. Got done. Yeah, that's great. Got done at an early shift.
She puts in long hours, man.
Yeah, she deserves a
basically
break.
Constantly.
Yeah, she deserves a break. So it works out well.
Maybe that's the way she looks at it when she gets locked behind the doors of stone. If that's how it goes down, maybe she's like, it's all right. It's okay. At least I get to take a break now.
But she does like. She sees like Ajax is butt naked because he's a Fae guy, and she does like one of those things where she spreads her hands apart as she's shutting the door to like show that he's like, look how long it is.
Oh my god, what the fuck?
So she's got prospects. She's got prospects. She's not just she's hanging back there with Ajax. She doesn't,
I mean, one of the most powerful.
She's not,
if not the most powerful person in this world.
She's not hanging back there with like fucking, what's Basil or someone.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Like, eventually Kvothe and Denna get to trade stories back.
Oh, that would actually be better.
And Ajax.
That would be better as like Basil somehow works his way in there, and then like as like Denna's shutting the door, Basil like jumps in there and it's like, "See ya." It's like, "Got your girl." So that's part of the tragedy is Kvothe is just stewing in his head like fucking Basil. It's like I know he's hooking up with her. I know she's like giving up. Like she's only got so many options in there.
Jeez. Yeah, that wouldn't help. Old Kvothe's paranoias and anxieties.
But yeah, I think that will fucking cover it for this week. We will fucking see you next week. Shove that down your face. Peace out.
Yeah, enjoy it.